Right. So there are some missing members, right? So am I audible? Just want to recheck again.
Yes, sir. We can
Right.
hear.
And then you can see the present, not the presentation. Minro, you can see the standard, you can see, right?
Yes, sir.
22 standard.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. So shall we wait another 2-3 minutes?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Right. We'll wait another 3 minutes and then we'll start. So what about you guys? We covered a lot of areas and then how was your lunch? Time is not enough, right? Bhagya, what do you think? I think like online program, you guys have no problem, right? Only the trainer has an issue. Dilukaliyana, what do you think? How was your lunch? You had a lot to eat? Did you eat a lot? Dulika? There? I think still you guys are on lunch. We need to start because we might need more time. We have to cover a lot. Minru, we are going to start. I think you can send a message others to join. I think people are joining, right? We'll wait. Right. Okay. I think let's start. Otherwise, uh, Minru want to finish on time, right? 4:30. So we might have a difficulty, right? Let's start. I think others join. So this time, I basically use the standard because I thought you should have a flavor of the standard as well, not only the presentation. So this is the second edition. So I'm straight away using the standard, right? Not the presentation. So it said food safety management system requirement for any organization in food chain. So any organization in food chain mean primary packaging, manufacturers, whoever involved in the food chain, transporters, storage, everybody can apply for this standard. Organization like us, we can't because we do consultancy, nothing to do with the food chain, right? So we do consultancy for the food factory. So we can't obtain ISO 22000. But only thing we can obtain ISO 9000, that is a quality management system. So our organization entire management system pretty much based on ISO 9001 2015 standard requirement. So I believe one of you said at the beginning, already you participate and then have some background in 9000. So that's wonderful. So only people who are involved in the food chain, right? Say universities can get ISO 9001, but they are not involved, even though they do food basic degree MSc program, but they are not in part of the food chain, right? So they goes as external suppliers, so they can't obtain ISO 22, but of course they can obtain ISO 9001. So let's move on. So this standard basically I showed you, so first few part we don't need to worry. Context part we don't need to worry. I mean, like scope, nominative reference, terms, definition, that is actually belongs to the standard. But then of course this part, context, we need to study, right? So here they said, understand the organization is context, understand the need and expectation of interested parties, determine the scope of food management, food safety management system. So when it's come to ISO standard, right? Any ISO standard pretty much depend on the PDCA. We call plan, do, check, tag, right? So this element number 4 is a planning. Leadership is a planning, right? So you do the planning part, right? Let us understand. Planning, of course, is a planning part, right? Support is a part of planning, right? So this is the planning part. So you remember PDCA, right? Operation is a do, so doing part. So this is where you do all the activities, doing part. This is where you have your famous HACCP and all. So you can see HACCP part, right? And then see, performance evaluation is a checking part, and then improvement is a action part, right? Improvement is action part. So you are taking action. So PDCA, plan, do, check, tag, right? So this is what standard. So you can see out of 4 to 10 elements, 4, 5, 6, 7 is a planning, and then do, check, act, right? So let's go one by one. So these are relevant to standard. So this is the PDCA I mentioned. Plan, do, check, tag, P, D, C, A, plan to check that. I link with the standard requirement. I hope you can see the standard, right? You can see it. Are you okay? So the KK, you're okay? I don't know who's KK. Dulika Liyanagi, you can see the standard, right? KK, you can see the standard. Shamika Chirandi, you can see the standard, right? Steam, are you still eating? Or Hanshini Pereira, you can see the standard, right? I'm not getting feedback. Yeah. Shamika, yeah. All right, great. So I'm getting feedback. All right. Okay. Thank you. Right. So the moving part also you can see, right? So you can see PDCA, plan, do, check, tag, right? So let us learn the balance part now. So when it's come to the ISO standard, I'm going to element number 4. These are nominated reference terms definition. See, if you want conformity, definitions are given. There are some standard, they don't give definition, so you have to purchase a separate guideline, right? So these are this is not available in the FSSC site. These are ISO standard. You need to purchase this standard, right? So let me come to the context part. Right, this one. Now, this is where you need to start implementation. This is where you need to do the auditing part. So standard said organization shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and that are effect ability to achieve the intended results of food safety management system. Say, for example, now Anjana is coming from a DC manufacturing plant. So on the DC manufacturing plant, mainly their intended results are on a food safety management system is how to manufacture DC without having issues in food safety. She has to make sure DEC, there's no chemical, physical, microallergenic issues. No threat, no vulnerabilities. So that's her intention, right? So due to this intention, there can be external issues, there can be internal issues. Right. So, external issues can be sometimes it can be positive. See, there's a note one said it can be positive, it can be negative, right? So these factors again, there will be no another note to saying the context can be facilitated considering external and internal issues, including not limited to. So there are external issues. So they talk about it can be legal, it can be technological. Now, sometimes the issue when we are used the presentation and all, people are not very much familiar with the standard. So when you started to do an internal audit, when you go to the organization, you should be able to read and understand the standard. So this is not very colorful, right? So that's why I purposely select, okay, balance part, I'll use the standard. Right. So then you are very much familiar with this format, right? And then technological, your competitive market, culture. So these are all external, social and economic environment, right? And then very interesting, they talk about the cyber security, food fraud, food defense and intentional contamination, knowledge and performance of the organ. So these are so this is up to this. We talk about external part and intentional contamination, knowledge, performance of the organization, whether international, national, regional, or local. This can be part of internal factors, right? So standard said, okay, let's understand your context. So your context can be external, your context can be internal, right? When you're manufacturing, so there can be internal factors, there can be external factors, which is impact to your food safety management system. Since I think bulk of you, most of you are like coming from the university background. Let me take an example in kitchen, right? In your kitchen, what is the food safety objective? What is the scope of the food safety? You bring product, you manufacture, you cook it and serve to your the people who are living in a house, right? That's the whole purpose. So then there can be external factors. Say for example, now last few days due to the flood situation and all, people might not bought chicken. Why? Because you have an external you need a certain protein content in your home, but you tend to not to buy chicken because of there will be like some issues and situations are there, so that will be a negative factor. That is external. And imagine in your kitchen, if somebody is making your food is sick, or maybe your hygiene condition is not good, then always you have a issue with your the food hygiene part. So that is the internal context. So it will be same for the industry. Say for example, now coconut industry, so they are like heavily depend on the coconut. Now currently in Sri Lanka, we are facing a coconut scarcity. So that will be a negative factor because your prices are going up. And then you are competing with other countries like, Indonesia and all, with the same DC market and the quality of the coconut. So that's a one concern. That's the external factor. And then internally, getting new people into industry, internal, that's again external factor. And then trade, because in the coconut industry, you have matured people, if you take average age, I don't know about Anjana's factory, but normally average age is about like 45, 50. That so train them is not that easy. But if you take a other factory like garment factory, the average age is about like 28, 30, around that. So you can train them. Right. So those are the positive factors, right? So we need to study, we need to get a list about the positive and negative factors in the external environment as well as internal environment, right? So this is the first thing we need to do, because this is context called in ISO 9000, there's another word called strategic direction also included, but in food safety we are not consider the strategic direction. We need to know what are the external factors in a positively, in a negatively, which will be impact for us, especially getting FSSC. If you need to send product to Europe market, you need to get FSSC. So that's the external factor, right? And then come back and do a TS gap study and say, okay, how strong your GMP requirement, PRP requirement, that's the internal factor, negative factor, right? So don't worry what we're going to do afterward, but I want you to do a study, right? Like, select one industry, maybe coconut, maybe tea, and like even if it is tea, in Sri Lanka, we have a issue about the chemicals, right? MRL levels are high kind of a scenario. And then industry, we are like, we have very old factories. Very, very few tea factories are there, like new factories are there. So those are the kind of a consideration we need to make sure, right? So, and then again, like, we have like, one of the best, the quality tea in Sri Lanka, in world, right? The taste is really, really good. But right now, the other industries are like they're going on a different platform. So we need to consider all these factors, right? So now, can you pick one industry? So you can say, oh, is a bakery, or is your kitchen, or tea industry, or DC, or maybe your university canteen, because that's a food preparation place, right? So based on their like outcome, can you do a small study on like what are the external positives, what are the external negatives? Like say for example, in Sri Lanka, you can say we have a very good food, very strong food act, but the problem with the food act is it's not implemented, so that can be a negative, right? So there are countries they don't have a food act, right? So maybe if you want to get a testing done, you might say, okay, we don't have much laboratories who has accredited, or maybe the cost is high. So that can be a negative. So can you pick a one industry, right? And then do a context analysis, the positive and a negative, right? For internal and external part. Or maybe you pick one and do analysis and then share in the group. So I hope this question is clear to you. Is it clear? Team, I need feedback. I need a reaction. So I think like you already have energy, right? You already had a good lunch, and then you already have energy, or maybe you feel sleepy. So can I get a feedback? So you're clear about the question? Because in this program we try to like afterwards you should be able to implement, right? Not just listen to me. Okay, Shamika is good. What about others? What about others? You're all good? What about others? Only Shamika? Who's KK? KK, are you good? Sachinta is good. All right. KK, you're good. Sachinta, okay, good. Creative art, ML. Creative art. Okay, creative art is good. Nimanti, okay, right. So let's take this is a difference between the old standard and new standard, right? So old standard doesn't go into the context analysis. So when you go to the industry, when you do this context analysis, you have to do with the top management. Top management involvement is a must. Yeah. So let's take 5 minutes. Now 1:49. So one uh one 54, right? So let's start the program. Yeah. So during that time, you can share with me on WhatsApp or like in the messenger, in the meeting chat. Yep. Let's do that. If you have any question, any doubt, just ask. So these are the new areas which is available in 22,000 standard. Yeah. Just share with me. If you have any doubts, just ask the question, right? You can on the mic or you can ask or like you can chat it. Yeah. I'm available. So you're going to do a context analysis. This is the kind of advanced requirement you're going to do. Is it difficult, team? If you have issues, just ask. Is it difficult? Started to get feedback. Okay, so get university canteen, positive aspect, convenient access to food, drinks for student and staff, affordable pricing compared to outside. Uh, I don't know the numbers here. What about not the positive, like, the external positives and internal positive, right? Okay. Time saving for students. So it's not from the, okay, good that I have the feedback. So it's not from the canteen point of view, right? It's on the food safety, social space for student, right? Revenue. So the person who has sent on WhatsApp, it's a private message, right? So university canteen. So all these are like, this nothing wrong with this, but there's no food safety concept. Yeah, negative limited food variety, especially uh, dietary need, vegetarian, vegan, hygiene concern. If okay, there's one negative. If cleanliness is not regularly maintained, so overcrowding during peak hours, yeah, poor waste management handling. Okay, this is good, but focus on yeah. So see, sometimes like when you do this context analysis with the top management, you can carry it away with the quality, the strategy and all, like, so there should be somebody like working on the context part on food safety. So we have feedback, uh Ratnagar, interpositive context analysis using kitchen analysis raw material, in process items and finished product within the kitchen. Okay. Positive, confirm the key ingredient, meat specification, salt. Okay. Detect contamination deviation from receipt from productive kitchen. Okay. Helps in internal quality control process verification. Yeah, agreed. External positives, context in the kitchen, verify quality in ingredients of product or external suppliers before they enter into the kitchen, detect adulteration, contamination or off space material from suppliers. Supply, yeah, there's no supply approval in our kitchen, right? Uh, Supply approval complaint and food safety standard. Yeah, because like yeah, if you take the fish, the hotel industry, we maintain ask them to maintain fish and meat in this particular temperature, right? But the meat or fish we buy from the market, I'm like, there's no such standard, right? We buy it, right? Supply support approval, compliance with food safety standard, reduce risk of introducing unsafe or low quality ingredient into production. Yeah, I agree. Team, this is a kind of a new area. I think like, when you study, this is not captured in even in your study area. So this is a quite new. So I need at least one more feedback. Yeah. Can I get one more feedback? This is interesting. Can I get one more feedback? Can I get one more feedback? Yeah, I think I got another SMS. I don't have the name, but I think like you're spot on. Like, overcrowding during peak time can lead to unsafe food handling practices. Poor waste management can attract pests, harm environment. Additionally, inconsistent food quality and delays in service may reflect poor storage of preparation practice, which can compromise food safety. Yeah, I'm agreed. And then like, what about the internal facilities, the fridges, the staff awareness, their uniform. I mean, like if you refer to the canteen, right? Their uniforms. So that can be an internal facility factors, right? And then the condition, kitchen condition, and then you can check whether the GMP requirements have been covered. Yeah. So yeah, that can be one thing, and so we got Jaya Chan Girigama, like bakery industry, external positive, growing demand for health and specialty baked product, increasing urbanization and rise of cafes, yeah, restaurant and retail outlet, trend towards premium and organic product, agreed. So these are kind of positive thing, and then external negatives, high competition with large brand and local bakeries, fluctuation raw material costs, whether sugar, yeah, wheat, sugar, and dairy, yeah, changing consumer preference and dietary trends. Spot on, yeah. So I think like Jayashan, like basically focusing on the external positive and external negatives. So guys, this is bit different, right? So yeah, I'm like you are quite used to develop process map and then try to do the hazard study, but this is different, right? Like you have to look at the external factors. Like these are like not the operational. So these are like kind of a strategic areas, right? So you're looking at the strategic areas. So let me check last one. Internal facilities such as proper kitchen layout, clean water supply, adequate ventilation, and functioning equipment are essential. Poorly maintained or outdated facilities can increase the risk of cross-contamination, pest infection, and improper food storage. Lack of hand washing situation, temperature control equipment may be lead to unsafe food handling. Therefore, hygiene and well equipment. Yep, agreed. So this whoever who has sent the WhatsApp number, like you talk about the kitchen internal negatives. They're pretty much focusing on the internal negatives, right? So that is really good. Thank you. Right. So now, so this study has to be done with the top management, right? This is one area. With the top management, you need to. And then you need to do need and expectation of interested parties. So I'll work on this part as well because this is quite new. So in food sector, you have an interested party, right? Any organization, you have an interested party and need and expectation. So what is their need and expectation? Say for example, now you have a government authority, right? So they impose food act. So what they expect as an interested party, you to follow the food act requirement. That's the need and expectation, right? Your consumer can be an interested party. He wants you to get FSSC certificate. So he wants you to go through a unscheduled, unplanned audit, right? So that is what his expectation, right? Maybe you have a competitor in other way. He wants to know your food safety requirement, whether you are violating it. So he need a negative information. So depend on, you have a list of people and then they have a need and expectation. You have an employee list of employees, like in-house employees. So they have a need of like expectation. Like they need a clean uniform. Those requirements are there. So these are kind of a requirement. So this is the, you need to study your like interested party, and then you need to do a need and expectation, right? So this is one thing. And then scope, what do you do? So Anjana like basically into DC. So she can say receiving of raw material, coconut, converted into or manufacturing of DC product. If you are running a kitchen, you can say receiving of raw material, storage, cooking, and serving, right? So if you are into a bakery, receiving a raw material, storage, and manufacturing of or bakery products. So that will be a part of the scope, right? Catering. So this is very straightforward. And then it talk about leadership part. I'm not going to go through the leadership. I'm not going to go to the policy. This part I'll just skip. Now, this element 6. So I'll come back to that. But here, the action to address and risk opportunities. We need to study this. What do you mean by action to address and risk? See here, you identify, like, I got a one SMS, like, just maintain internal facility such as proper kitchen layout, clean water supply, adequate ventilation, functioning equipments are essential. So we'll say a clean water supply is not there. So this is one of your risks, right? This is one of your risks. Clean water is not there. Or maybe like proper kitchen layout is not there, right? So then what you need to do is like you need to develop action plan how to improve. this, like, layout is not there. You develop an action plan how to improve the layout. You say, okay, my clean water is not clean. I have a question. So how I'm going to develop a clean water supply, right? So whatever the things you identify at the context, external and internal, you try to develop action plan. So element 6 pretty much talk about that, right? How to develop action plan. So this can be a continuous operation. Say after you design your kitchen, like, okay, like, according to this, whatever the external factor, you said, okay, proper kitchen layout. Kitchen layout is not there. So after you complete the layout, you don't need to worry about it, right? You go into the next one, right? So under element 6, you cover that part, right? So still the planning. So up to this. And then here, you develop objectives. What do you mean by objective? Objective means you have to have a food safety targets, right? Any organization, you need to have a target. Say, for example, we'll say I'm running a hotel. So when I'm running a hotel, I need to have a food safety targets. I might say, okay, I need to make sure there's no customer complaint, zero customer complaint related to food safety. So there can be a complaint saying, okay, I don't like this food. This taste is good. Taste is not good. So that can be a quality related thing. So this is not a part of it. But if somebody said, okay, I got a diarrhea because of having consuming your food, that will be a food safety issue. Or somebody said, okay, I have a like, hair pieces. That's a food safety concern. So you can say, I need to have an objective related, food safety related objective. So when you set an objective, you need to set SMART objective. What do you mean by SMART? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. So what do you mean by SMART? It should be specific. It should be specific. Say, for example, zero customer complaint related to food safety. Specific, you can measure, and it should be measurable, and then it should be realistic and time bound. Or maybe, like, since somebody has already talked about the CCP, critical control point, which we are going to learn in like, few hours. Like, in short time, you can mention like, okay, like, zero CCP violation. See, if you have already have a violation, you can say like, you can't make a zero. So you can say zero CGP violation. Or maybe you can have a target saying, okay, like, what do you call product recall. Previously you achieved like, within 3 hours, 2 hours you achieved. You say, okay, product recall, mock product recall timing has to be less than 1 hour. So that can be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. You need to have a perfect system to achieve within 1 hour, right? So that can be a target, right? Now, can you read this and like, can you set objective, maybe to your kitchen, maybe to your DC manufacturing plant, or maybe to your like, like somebody has packaging plant, whatever. Can you identify one food safety objective which is covered, like, which can be categorized as a SMART objective? Can you do that? So I'll give you maybe 2 minutes. Now, 207, 2029. So can you identify one food safety related objective? I want everybody to do that, because when you're like, since you like, most of you are coming from a food background, you should be able to identify, because food safety objective, this is where most of the organization, they are not very good at identifying the food safety objective. Can you identify one food safety objective? Can you do that? Team, are you able to do that? Team, can you? Team, can you do that? One food safety objective? Nishadi Chandula, what do you think? Can you identify one food safety objective? Dahami, can you identify? Senanatha, Dahami? Diluka Govindu? Can you identify one food safety objective? Vishmi, can you identify? Team, are you okay? Sorry?
Is it correct to say maintaining cleaning schedules and documentation of cleaning process?
Okay. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong, right? So your objective is, come again, please?
Like maintaining and keeping records of the cleaning process, maintaining a cleaning schedule, responsible persons, likewise the documentation part.
Okay, Harshanika, like, let's go with this SMART concept, right? Is it specific? It's not specific, right? You are talking about big area. Can you
Yes.
measure this? How do you going to measure? Like, say, my example I took, like, what about customer complaint? So you can measure the number of customer complaint, right? But here, like, you can do this. Zero cleaning violation. See, you are not worried about the cleaning checklist, cleaning procedures, training, everything. So they have to run it, but you say zero cleaning violation, zero hygiene violation. So when you do a audit, right, there shouldn't be any cleaning violation. Like, I took the example, when you move the table, even the underneath part has to be covered cleanly. So if you put like that, that is smart, right? Specific, you can measure when you do the internal audit. Achievable, I don't know whether it's achievable or not. That's a question. Depend on the organization. A realistic time bound. Ashanika, you got it. You got my point, right?
Yes.
So
Right.
when you got it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So when you set objective, be smart. But I'm using the same concept, but converted into a smart concept. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Now we have Ratnak said maximum frequency and or concentration of a hazard in a food at the time of consumption that provide the appropriate level of health protection. Ratnak, can you measure this? Ratnak, can you measure this? Appropriate level of health protection, how do you measure this? So how do you, so I'm taking a, yeah, Ratnak, you have a connection. Ratnak, but I hope you can listen to this, right? Uh, concentration of hazard. So how do you measure the concentration of hazard? Like, so you need to, I think like you need to reword this, right? Maybe you need to reword this. Like, health protection. There's no health issues from your consumer. So maybe you can reword this. So I'm like zero returning of product. So this can be a smart, right? Zero returning of product. Sumitra, right? Like you said, zero returning product due to what? The food safety issues. Sumitra, you got my point, right? Because here we are talking about the food safety. Maybe sometimes, like, you have
Yes.
to return the product. Yeah, Sumitra, you got it, my point, right?
Yes,
Sumitra, you got all right. Because, like, sometimes people can return the product due to price variation, or maybe like packaging issues, or maybe expired product they have to return, right? So no, we are not worried about that. But due to food safety, maybe package is open or package is blown. So due to food safety issues, right? And then zero pest activity in storage area through a proper inspection. Yeah, Kalhara, your zero pest activity. So when you do the inspection, if there's a pest activity, your violation. Agreed? Minimizing microbiological contamination. So Hansika, then there's issue. What do you mean by, is it smart? Minimizing mean what to what? Or maybe you can say, like, zero microbiological contamination. So that will be a specific. So, like, when you do the testing, there shouldn't be any microbiological contamination, right? Minimizing mean like, so if you give a limitation, less than two, okay, Sachini, less than 2 milligram per kilo of zinc at the packaging. Interesting. So you do testing and then, Sachini, this is about what product? 2 milligram per kilogram of zinc at the packaging?
Yeah, I mean about the tea. I cannot remember exact level,
Okay.
but zinc is a limiting factor now.
Hmm. So you basically got it from SLSI or T-board standard, this one. I can't remember the
No,
figures.
sir. I'm a fresh graduate of Peradani Agriculture faculty.
Okay.
At this time, I am engaging with the internship opportunity in tea factory near to my
If
home.
okay, so this is this the 2 milligram per kilogram of zinc is at is standard. Where did you get this information? Is a T-board guideline?
As I remember, zinc level should be zinc level can go for 100 milligram per kilograms. I think
Okay.
uh, I I saw those things in the HSCC documents. I referred the ISO these documents.
Okay, Sachini, like this is fine. See, this, you're opening up a one particular important factor. Uh, See, sometimes the legal requirement can be taken as objective, right? Say there are some, say pathogen has to be zero, so you can take it as a kind of objective. So just Sachini, one thing like it can be available in the ISO document, but there should be a reference, right? A reference has to be from one of the legal document. It has to be either T-board document or from like SLSI document. So try to find out from which document, because this is what you are talking about, the legal requirement, right? So then you can of
Oh,
course you can set as objective.
okay,
Sachin,
sir.
you got
Thank
it
you.
right. So this is one important. So you can take this as a kind of a legal requirement can be objective, right? So Anjana has ensure the zero contamination of pathogen like Salmonella, E. coli in the finished product. Maintain moisture level below 2.5, zero complaint upon organic products by ensuring uh, chloride rate below ppm. So all can, Anjana, thank you very much. I think like you got the picture, right? So all Anjana, can you uh, can you make it equalize zero? Salmonella agreed. E. coli, can you make it zero?
Sir, we tested per 125 grams the E.
Okay,
coli.
E. coli zero, right?
Yeah,
Just check. Salmonella agreed, but E. coli just check. E. coli also zero, right? So other than
yeah.
that, is perfect, right? Maybe we have some microbiologists. Maybe you can argue. Product parameter deviation maintained below specific numbers, say 10%. All right, okay. This is Harshanika, product parameter deviation maintained below specific. So Harshanika, like you have to make sure what do you mean by product parameter deviation. So it can be quality, agreed, but if it is
Yeah.
food safety, that's a question, right?
Yeah, that indirectly maybe linked to the food safety. That's what I
Food
meant.
safety.
Yeah.
Okay. So maintain deviation. You can say
The
this is
internal
fine.
temperature, like inner pack temperature, there could be deviations in the temperatures, but they could be affecting the microbial situations like that.
Okay. So you said below 10%, whatever you have a checklist chart, but you main check all the deviation should be less than 10%. Agreed. So you guys are
Yeah.
really good. Acceptable level protection into operational target at point of consumption. Sinuru, I'm not very clear about this. What do you mean by acceptable level of protection? ALOP into operational target at point of consumption. I'm not very clear about it. Sinuru, can you just just help us on this to understand this. Gopendra, can you help us on this? Yeah, agreed. Okay. So I think like you know this more. Yeah, Sindhu, yeah.
Actually, I mean, when we consider about the public health or in considering on some of food, it is needed up to the reduce up to the safe level. It means that the ALOP level. So
Okay. So
that's
here
why I need to mention.
what you try to do is like, you do a testing and then you analyze like, batch wise or whatever. These are the like, say for example, aflatoxin. Yeah. You try to maintain the below level, right? Is that what you mentioned, Sinul?
Yeah.
Excellent. Very
Yeah,
good.
that's
Agreed. So you can measure this, right? Specific. So acceptable level will be vary from different chemicals to different chemicals, right? Right. Excellent. I think like you guys
Yeah.
got this. Thank you, Sinru. Right. So now when you do this objective, say for example, now you say, okay, I need to improve this acceptable level up to this level. So you need to identify like, action plan. What will be done? What are the resources? Who will be responsible? When it will be completed? How will be evaluated? You can say, okay, I need to increase like, one of your objectives said, like, where is this? One objective said, uh, so you said like, Dinuka Kalhara said like, zero pest activity in storage area through a proper inspection. So you currently you have like, maybe currently you have like, say five, Sapani, you want to say something? Sapani Adilisinger, you were trying to say something. Right, guys, just be careful with your mics and all that because maybe you are disturbing the moment. If you want to say something, please turn in your mic and you can freely talk, right? So it's two-way communication, right? Okay, so say the Tanuka Kalhara said like zero pest activity in storage area through a proper inspection. So it's specific for the storage area. So you have pest activity. You identify currently you have 10 pest activities, right? And then like, you want to make it zero. That's the target. Like, so what you try to do is like, you try to do what will be done. So you might say, okay, I need to do a survey where the pests are coming up, right? And then resource you require. So after you do the survey, you identify there are few holes are there, right? You need to cover. Then who's responsible? You say, okay, engineering team is responsible. So when it will be complete, he say, okay, I need 2 months. So you negotiate and say, no, I can't wait 2 months. Within 1 month, I had to do. Then of course, you need to do an evaluation and then whether your target is achieved. So if it's not achieved, again, you have to go back. So this is very important part. Now, I'm going back to the thing called policy. Now, here, I'm not going to say anything, right? I'm not going to say anything. See, when you go to the industry, sometimes you should be able to read, understand, and implement it, right? The task is now study 521 area, this one. And can you develop a food safety policy for your organization, right? Or maybe your kitchen, or maybe your university kitchen. So I'll give 5 minutes. You might need time, right? So read this, right? Read this carefully. This will be a nice learning for you as well, right? Read this carefully, right? So there are some instruction given in the standard. right? There are some instruction given in the standard, and using that, try to develop a food safety policy for your home kitchen, or maybe university kitchen, or maybe like, your industry. So I give 5 minutes. Now to 28, I want to 28, right? To 23. Team, I might not give a chance for a tea break, right? So we might need to continue. So maybe you can ask your home people to help you, give me a tea or plain tea, whatever. So we might not stop for tea break, right? Because we need to cover a lot. Right, guys, can you take this? Can you develop? I'm not going to explain this now, right? Throughout the day, I explain and then ask you to do a case study. But important thing is like, as a fresh graduates or already in the industry, when you have a new standard, the expectation of management is what? They expect you to read it, right? And then implement it. Now let's see how good you are. So read the standard 521 requirement. This is for food safety, 521 requirement, and then develop a food safety policy covering standard requirements. So don't worry about the 522. Just work on the 521. Is it clear? My question is clear? Guys, my question is clear? Guys, my question is clear? Yeah, right. Let's see how good you are. So you have 5 minutes. I'm here. If you have any question, you can ask. You can use WhatsApp or you can use the chat, whatever. You can straight away type whatever the question. I don't know who has sent this. I got a private message number like end from 2246. But I don't know who is the person, but your objectives are very good. So mention canteen should establish clear quantifiable target that can be tracked over time. For example, the canteen could aim for a 98 compliance rate with hygiene protocol during weekly health inspection. That is fantastic. They might also set a goal to reduce the number of food contamination incident by 20% within 6 months. Another measurable target could be ensuring 100% of food handlers complete certified food safety training every year. Right. So this is really good. So if you don't mind, like, can you just put this into the common group so the others can see this, right? Are you okay with this? I don't know, like the person who has sent. Can you just put it in the common group? So then yeah, please. Thank you very much. This is perfect. This is actually perfect. So you covered everything. So I mean, like with your feedback, others can learn. This is fantastic objectives. Even industry people sometimes they are struggling to identify this kind of objectives. So you guys are good, right? So let's see how good you are in the policy. So I didn't say a single word. I didn't see a single word. Just read it, and then understand this. So I think that feedback is also there. So this is perfect. I mean, this is very advanced and very good objectives. So maybe you can use this. Right. So you have 1 minute, guys. I need a food safety policy. See, after this program, if you involve, like, you almost cover everything. So when you get into the industry, you should be able to implement, right? So maybe help industry. So maybe in near future, like, you might increase the number of FSSC certified customers in Sri Lanka, like, maybe 197 to 297, maybe another 100 customers. Because we already had about like now 365 people, right? So if you can convert another 50 customers, that's nice. I mean, that's good thing, right? Because when you go for FSSC, like, that the export industries, they need that. So the program return of investment would be very much higher than that, right? So if you can convert 97, at least another 50 industries, that would be lovely. To address internet and external communication, proper channel be maintained for food safety, regulatory compliance, and suggest both external and internal parties. Okay, address internal and external communication, proper channel. So Sachini has mentioned this about your food safety policy. Okay, fine. Right. Any other feedback? Can I get one more feedback? Is it tough? Is it tough? Can I get one more feedback? Okay. I got one. Appropriate for the purpose of kitchen, university kitchen, such as a mass food preparation for students, staff, and visitors. Provide a framework for setting food objective, for example, reducing foodborne incident, doing correct cooking, storage, uh, uh, reducing foodborne incident, maintain correct cooking, storage, commitment to comply with food safety requirement, including natural food laws and regulation, university guidelines, custom. All right, interesting, interesting. You guys all almost there, right? In uni kitchen, wear clean job coat, apron, cover gloves, and during hand washing person, separate push, storage handling, preparation, prevent contamination from. Okay, so I got feedback. Interesting. Now let's go through that. Top management shall establish. So this is a not an operational document, kind of a strategic document, overlooking everything, right? Implement food safety policy appropriate to the purpose of the context of the organization. So it said appropriate purpose. So when you see a food safety policy, like we take a kitchen example in university, right? So you said, okay, at the kitchen in the university, we are receiving storage and manufacturing of food product for the guests, like whatever you said, guests, visitors, staff, and all, like, so you cooking, cutting, cooking preparation. So when somebody see the policy, they should understand, okay, this is a biscuit manufacturing, this is a milk manufacturing, this is a restaurant, like university restaurant, right? So that idea has to be there. And then provide framework setting review and objectives, right? So this our friend has mentioned, like I think who's Veeratna, right? So Veeratna, thank you. Like you said, okay, put 98% compliance rate of hygiene products. So you can mention 98 to 100% hygiene rate maintains, right? And then reduction of contamination incident or zero contamination incident, and ensuring 100% staff training. So this part can be covered, right? And then this is a dangerous part. So I think like you miss out this. So when the standard said include, right? When the standard said include, you have to include that part. Commitment to satisfy applicable requirement. This entire wording has to be there. Commitment to satisfy applicable food safety requirement, including statutory and regulatory requirements, and mutual agreed customer requirement related to food safety. That wording has to be there. Say, for example, if you don't go for FSSC or ISO, you don't need to include that. But moment you decided, okay, I'm going for the certification for FSSC, ISO, your policy should include this part. Guys, is clear? So standard said include, what do you need? That wording has to be there. You got it? You got it? That word itself has to be there in the policy. Team, you got my point? Harshanika, you got it. Dumiti Pereira, you got it? Bhagya, you okay? Okay, Dumiti, you got it, right? All right, great. Right. Now, then there's another include word, right? So external communication include commitment to continual improvement of food safety management system. That word also has to be there. You got it? That also had to be there. Yep. So you can add anything, but these two words, the C and D has to be there. Now again, you know how to read the manual, right? The ISO standard. So now even when you read some other ISO standard, it can be quality ISO 9000, it can be environment 14,000, it can be occupation health and safety standard. Any standard when you read now you'll be very careful with the wording with include, right? Because you know that if that word is there, it has to be there. And then this about communication. So it has to be documented, communicate, and this is a dangerous part. Understood. What do you mean by understood? What do you mean by understood? So now we are, our Anjana is there. Anjana, are you there? Anjana Maliwadu is there, right? So Anjana is coming from DC factory, already have ISO. So I have right, if I'm auditor, I have right to ask from Anjana, what is your food safety policy? Why? Because the standard said, look, it should understood and apply within all levels of the organization. Say, this is available for quality ISO 9000 as well, but not for ISO 14,000. It said basically available and communicate only, right? It's available and communicate only, right? So, so these are like very important part. So Anjana has developed policy as well, right? So this is very important, right? Now you know how to do the policy part, right? So how to read the standard as well. So very careful, the word says shall, it should be there, right? So when you develop top management, so most senior person's signature has to be there. Team, you are good with policy? Right. Now let me cover the balance part. So this part I like, the balance leadership and commitment. So top management should involve in the policy, food safety management system, support functional, the objective, when you set objective KPIs, they should need to provide the facility, right? Say, for example, you are going to cut down the pest control, like the example we took. So then they need to provide the finance to cut the issue. So this part, the top management commitment is there, right? And then the policy part we covered, right? And then roles, responsibilities. See, this is basically we covered your job description part, right? So any organization, you need to have a documented job description. So each and every, so there should be a food safety team leader, right? So leader has to be there, and then top management has to be there. So documented information, right? So this information has to be there. So this is basically we call all your job description, right? So now I cover the assessment and came back to that, right? Now objective part we covered. So still we are the planning. So again, standard talk about changes. Now this is very important in food safety. Why we are changes is very important. Can someone tell me why changes is very important? If you are running a food safety factory, say now, since most of you are talking about the kitchen in the university, say all of a sudden, like you have a team of the contractor, you change the contractor. Do you think it's good or bad? Is it a part of change management? You are like you have a food supplier, you change the food supplier. Now what do you think? Now what do you think? Now what do you think? So you change the food supply, right? So you bring somebody else. So what do you think? What are the repercussions you are looking at in the food safety angle? So you have a canteen person who is already doing a work, and then due to some reason you decided to bring somebody else. Maybe it goes through a tender and then goes to a new person. So that's part of the change management. Or maybe the same person change the like chef, right? Or maybe you change the equipment. Or maybe you change the suppliers. So what do you think? And then say, for example, now DC, Anjana is working in DC. Like, Sri Lanka, we have issue, we'll say we have issue with the coconut. So you decided to bring coconut from India, right? So what is the process? Or maybe your hatcheting team change. Or maybe you are getting product from like, say one area, Kurunagal, you decided, okay, I'll bring product from Goal area as well. So that's the change management. So what would be the, what would be, Dhanushka said he should agree, follow the procedures, right? Policies. Yeah. So when you do a change management, say potential consequence, what would be the consequence? Because new person doesn't know about the food safety or the policies, or maybe he might not have experience in the similar operation. Maybe he might work in a hotel industry, but he might not work in the canteen environment. So those things, right? What are the available resources? Or maybe allocation or reallocation of responsibility. Like, until such time, you might need to do a more monitoring part. So those are kind of a requirement, right? Changes has to be there. So I think like we covered element 6, and then support is very easy. This is the last part of the planning, right? So you need to, yeah. Okay. I think like Sachini Jayashuri, does ISO 20000 2018 means the second edition, and in this manual that we use in obtaining FSSC 22000? This is somewhat confusing. Okay, Sachini is like this. See, guys, just excuse. Sachini, I think like you are referring to this, right? Sachini, Jayasuri, like you are referring to this, right? So here, I believe like, just try to minimize the confusion, right? See, when you go for FSSC, Food Safety Certification System, there are 3 standards, right? We are basically covering 3 standards. One is ISO 22000 2018 has to be there. Then TS 22000 standard has to be there. See this one. I think like maybe you are not there at the beginning, right? See this. Guys, are you clear about this? See, when you go for ISO FSSC 22000, right? All these 3 requirements has to be covered. ISO 22000 2018, and then technical, this is GMP part, and the additional requirement. So which these 2 already be covered, right? These 2 already be covered. So and then we are working on, all right, okay. I think it's clear to everyone, right? Okay, I'm just going back. All right, okay, great. Don't worry. So if you have a question, just ask, like, I'll try to help you. Because this standard is much advanced standard, right? Remember, in Sri Lanka, only 97 factories are certified. If you take tea factories, I think 22,000, we have about like maybe 5,000, 6,000 certificate. So compared to that, this is very low. So you might get confusion. Don't worry, right? So let me go back. I'm here, right? So this support part is very important because like it's easy because like, you know, sometimes like, you know, say for example, now, okay. I feel like, you know, okay, there was an issue because I can give the 22,000 certificate standard, but only thing, can you remember in this? Hope you can see this, right? This has to be purchased, right? This has to be purchased. Both standard has to be purchased. So what they do is they will basically give you a like, you know, single user copy unless you convert this document as a training document. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just give this standard with Minura, the Procure team. They will put a like, you know, heading and saying, or maybe Shehan from our end, only training purpose only, and then only we can distribute. Otherwise, I can't because theoretically this cannot be network. You got my point, right? So I can't network this. So I'll give it to a Procure team, Minura or Shehan. They will put a like, you know, a kind of a watermark saying only training for this particular workshop, and then they put it in the WhatsApp group, right? So then you can use it. I have no problem, but like because this is purchased under Halcyon, then there will be an issue for us. So we will put as a kind of a comment saying, okay, this is a. I think like even PDF you can include that. I think Minura, I think like we can do that, right, Shahan? So we'll try to do that and share with you. Yeah. Pereira KKL, right? So we'll try to do that. Yeah. So these are like, you know, that's why I use the standard also because like, you know, it's easy for you. And then you know what is the exact requirement in the standard. And then of course, you know how to read the standard as well. Otherwise, you just go through the presentation. It is colorful and nice. So the people part, like say, for example, say operation and maintenance effectiveness of the food safety management system are competent, where the assistant of external expert is used for development, implement, and operation of food safety management system. Like, you know, you can use that as also, right? So say, for example, now, you know, like pet bottle manufacturing company, right? So when you do a HACCP study, you need to have a like, you know, microbiologists, right? But do you think like, you know, a pet manufacturing, plastic manufacturing company, do they need to hire full-time employee for the for the for the for the for their organization? What do you think? So imagine you are running a pet manufacturing plant, and then you need to have a microbiologist. Like, you know, same with like, you know, hotel industry, say food catering place. When you do a HACCP study, you need a microbiologist because somebody should be there to know about the microbiological part. Because otherwise, nobody knows what you mean by salmonella, what you mean by E. coli, where you can get the microbes. So people doesn't know about it. But what about, are they going to have a permanent employee? Do you think? What do you think? A microbiologist. Do you think you can use a permanent employee there?
No, we can just hire an expert for the time being.
Of course, Ashwini. So you can do that, right? You can hire an expert, microbiologist expert, and then work with him on the project and sign an agreement with that. So these are resources. So like, you know, resource, like, you know, then top management has to pay for the person, right? So then that will be a part of top management commitment. So this is how you link the standard clauses, right? So then infrastructure, this is very important. So all your TS 22,000 requirement. What do you mean by TS 22,000?
Technical standard
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
your technical standard, right? Should be covered here. So imagine if you go for a like, you know, ISO 22,000 only, you are not need to cover that part, right? Only these things you cover. Work environment, right? And the facility, that's it, right? But when you go for it, the technical FSSC requirement, You need to cover everything. So that's why a lot of multinational, they are very concerned about it. And like if you take an audit report, most of the audit outcomes are pretty much based on the TS guideline because it's very tough, right? You can see infrastructure, people, warehousing, equipment, each and every details are there, right? So, but here is pretty much open. Is it okay? Organization shall provide necessary resource for the determination, establishment, and maintain of the infrastructure necessary to achieve the conformity of with the requirement of food safety management system. So it said the infrastructure can be including land, vessel, building and associate utilities, equipment including hardware and software, transportation, information and communication. So this is very straightforward, very simple, right? But when it's come to FSSC, it has so much of requirement, TS standard, right? So no wonder why if the multinationals are like this FSSC standard, and no wonder why the certification is that tough. That's why less people are certified, not because of ISO requirement, mainly because of TS requirement. You're clear about it? Why stuff and all? Yeah, is it clear to you? Team is clear?
Yes, sir.
Sachini, you are clear? Harshini, thank you. Sachini, you are clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Righto, great. Now let's move on. Work environment is covered. Now, this is 715. Externally determine elements of the food safety management system. So, your external development elements, when organization establish, maintain, update, continually improve food safety, external develop elements, including PRP, hazard analysis, and hazard control plan, shall ensure that the provider elements are developed in conformance with the requirement of the document, applicable site, process and production organization, specifically adapt to the process and product organization by food safety team, implement, maintain, and update required. So retain document. So whatever external developed element, food safety management system. Say I'll take one example. You need to have a monitoring mechanism like temperature. So temperature probe has to be covered like this because you are not manufacturing, you are not developing externally provide elements. So this is one part, and then this one externally provide processors. So this is say for example, one good example. Now everybody talk about the canteen, right? In canteen, are you making string hoppers? In canteen, in university canteen, are you making string hoppers or is it string hoppers are available?
They're available.
String hoppers are available, but they are not making string hoppers, right? So where did you get the string hoppers? Where did you get the string hoppers? It's from, yeah, Harshanika.
They outsource them from a supplier.
They outsource the suppliers, right? So if there's some contamination in the string hoppers, and imagine entire university student got infected, whoever eats string hoppers, what would be the outcome? Who's responsible?
The canteen owners will be the ones responsible.
Yeah, canteen owner will be there, right? Look, you do that, right? Right? You hammer the guy. Right? But he said, it's from this particular place. It's none of our business, right? He should have a system. So ISO required like that. So that's why establish and apply criteria for evaluation, selection, monitoring of performance and re-evaluation of external provider process product service, right? Ensure adequate communication and requirement for the external providers. Ensure the external provider process product service do not adversely affect the organization ability to consistently meet the food safety management requirement, retain documented information of these activities and any necessary action as results of evaluation or re-evaluation. Say, this is fantastic system. Even sometimes, the five-star hotels, some activities are done outside. Like in five-star kitchen, sometimes you can see action area. So there was a ladies, they make hoppers, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. You can say, okay, they are making hoppers internally, inside. Fine, that's fine. But what about the I don't know what the word, what do you say, like, solution, like the mixture, the milk, whatever the mixture, hopper mixture, they prepared from home, right? Yeah. And then even string hoppers, they make from their home. And then, like, most of the time, like, when we started to work on the food sector, there are some outsource activities, right? So we supposed to go and audit them. So sometimes, like, the results are really shocking, right? Sometimes results are really shocking because the way they wash their up, like, the whatever the equipment. Sometimes, like, we talk about, like, you can't even keep a washroom inside your production facility. But when you go and check those places, right, you can see their washing facilities are next to the toilet, right? So this is the evaluation is required. So if you're using, like, I don't think desiccated coconut, you don't use anybody, right? uh Maybe canteen example I can say is string hoppers and all, like, you're using from outsource. But depend on the industry, sometimes you might use outsource party. These are not your suppliers, right? These are part of your product. Some part of the product is manufactured by a third party, right? So this is very important. 716, this is very important, right? And then competency. This is like, training needs, awareness, whether you have a proper qualification. So this is one example. Under FSSC, can you remember the internal auditor competencies? Right? You need to have a 2-year experience. Out of 2 year, 1 year has to be same industry, same organization. So these are part of competency. And then awareness. So this training program awareness has to be there. And then your internal and external communication has to be there. So this is very important part we need to cover, right? About raw material and all. So these are, like, documented information. I'll just explain one of the documented information, like, when I take the example, right? So when you create, like, when you delete, when you open, like, the documented information has to be have a author, like, title, date, reference number, all has to be there, right? So these are kind of a element 7 requirement, and document has to be controlled. Right now, guys, any question up to now? So now we complete P part. You are complete. You're okay with the P part? You're okay with the P part? Planning? Any question? You are clear? I hope you have no confusion right now, right? So we covered additional requirement. Under FSSC, there are 3 elements. Additional requirements we covered. We covered technical TS, pretty much focusing on the manufacturing. Now we are at the ISO standard, right? Now ISO standard, again, we complete the entire production, the planning part. Now we come to a operation part. This is where you have like, the HACCP and all, right? So we are going to touch a little bit of HACCP part, but we are not going to go detail because, like, this is not a HACCP program. But we need to touch a little bit of HACCP. So PRP. So here they say, like, PRP part appropriate. So this is very basic organized context of the organization, right? But since we are going for FSSC, we covered everything, right? So it's just say, give a kind of a hint, say applicable part of TSC series, right? So you said, okay, if you want, you can part of it, or otherwise, when just mention 824 mention, when establishing PRP, organization shall consider this common areas, right? But doesn't give that detail, right? Doesn't give that detail. But since we are going for FSSC, we have to cover everything, right? Now, traceability is a requirement 8.3. So whatever rework material distribution traceability also we covered under TS part, right? And then this is one thing. But before I go for this emergency, I'll come to hazard part, right? Now we need to do a hazard analysis. So just tell me, how many of you are familiar with the hazard analysis? We're going to do one case study. How many of you are familiar with the hazard study? So we are about 365 people. How many of you are know about the hazard part? Harshanika, Sachini, what about Probodhya? So Harshanika knows about hazard. You know
Yes.
about hazard, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anjana also like know about the hazard. Dumindi. So Dumindi knows about hazard. Bhagya, Sachini also knows about. So we'll skip this, right? We'll go on other one. You good? So people know about, like, I took 5 samples, 5 people know about the hazard. So can I move on without going through the hazard? Is it all right? Ayush, what do you think? Ayush, Live, what do you think? Hirunika, what do you think? Hirunika, what do you think? You want to study the hazard and go? Guys, what do you think? You want to skip the hazard since you know about it? Or you want to just run through the some examples? Guys, what do you think? So guys, let's go through this, right? What do you think? So it is fully complete then. We'll take few example and complete this, right? Yeah. Ayush, you okay? Harshanika, you okay, right? With that? Sachini? Let's
Yes, sure.
complete this. Yeah. All right. So we don't take much time. Right. So when you do, okay, I'm getting feedback. Yeah. So Mohammed Hassan said, okay, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. Yes, yes, yes. Let's do this. Right. So when you do a hazard, right, this part mainly missing out. Say characters. So you need to study the legal requirement, everything, right? So in Sri Lanka, Food Act, everything. So if you are exporting into one country, we need to study that part. So raw material, ingredient, and product contact material. So we need to know about the characteristics. Say, for example, now desiccated coconut, that's easy. Why? You are need to worry about the coconut and the contact surface. Imagine when you are running a kitchen, food, like, a hotel, number of material, number of ingredients is huge, right? So we need to study that part, right? So those are kind of a key requirement. So this is one area we need to work on. So under each and every product, so when you select a job, you need to select this part as well, right? So one product is fine. If you are into oil manufacturing, fine. But if you're getting into a hotel industry, imagine the number of ingredient, right? So under each and every ingredient, we need to know about biological, chemical, physical character, composition, source, right? Place of origin, method of production, method of packaging, delivery, storage condition, shelf life, preparation and handling of before use processing. So all these things we need to study. And then same time, we need to know about the characteristics of end product. If it is DC, that is fine. We know the moisture level, whatever, and then there's if it is a black tea is easy. But imagine if it is a hotel, you have different product. You have string hoppers, you have like rice, you have meat, different meat curries. So you need to know about that part. And then this is what I just mentioned, intended use. So what this product actually do, right? Intended use. So this is where like different. So you have to, like, mention about like, say this part. Let me read this. The intended use including reasonably, see this part, reasonably expected handling of end product. Sometimes, like, unintended use, but reasonably expected mishandling. We need to consider misuse of the end product shall be considered. Right? Say there are some product, like you might say, like, a protein product or maybe a vitamin product. What happens if they use excess? So you need to consider when you do the HACCP study as well. Say DEC and those products, if they use excessive amount, that's fine. Nothing will happen. But imagine sugar. What happens if they use excess? So that's why in Sri Lanka, there's a different criteria. This product has, like, red, green, amber color codes are there. So you need to consider this as well, right? So these are like intended use and reasonably foreseeable use you need to study, right? And then this is most important part, preparation of flow diagram. Right. Now, let me read this. Right. Food safety team shall establish, maintain flow diagram. This is very important, right? Diagram and document information of the product categories and process covered food safety management system. Flow diagram provide graphic representative of the process. Flow diagram shall be used when conducting hazard analysis. So when you conduct hazard analysis, right? Flow diagram has to be there. Possible occurrence, increase or decrease of the food safety hazard. Flow diagram shall be clear, accurate, very important, clear, accurate, and sufficiently detailed in the extent need to conduct hazard analysis. Flow diagram shall be appropriate, including following: the sequence and interaction of the steps of the process, any outsourced process, where raw material, ingredient, processing aids, packing material, utilities, intermediate products enter into the flow, where rework, recycle take place, and where end product, intermediate product, byproduct waste related to the remove, right? So process flow diagram is very important, because if you do a process flow diagram in a wrong way, or if you miss one step, right, that is, then you are not going to capture the hazard in that place, right? Let me explain again. Say, for example, now you are taking a, like, say pineapple, pieces of pineapple, chop in the market, like, you are taking, right? You go to a vendor, he has pineapple, chop, like, at the salt, or like, whatever the ingredient, and then you take it. So if you develop a process map, you go to a shop, request for pineapple pieces, right? And then you pay money. That's a process step. And then he take a bag, put pineapple, and put salt, like, whatever the other ingredients, we'll say spice ingredient, and then give it to you. That's the process step. But there's a major violation. Why? You give money, all these things. So there, he take a bag, he blow the bag. He blow the bag, right? Normally he does, using his mouth. Blow the bag, take a spoon, take pineapple, they put it, and then use the same spoon or different one, or maybe a container, put salt, whatever they mix, and then mix it, give it to you, right? So imagine if you do a hazard analysis with this first step without considering the blowing bag, you miss the hazard part. Because, like, if there's a contamination in his lungs, like whatever virus, whatever, so those part is actually missing. So when you develop the process, that has to be there. So that's why the standard said this part 85152, on-site confirmation of flow diagram. This is not available in ISO 9000. The food safety team, so food safety team, entire team shall confirm on-site accuracy of the flow diagram, update the flow diagram where appropriate, retain documented information. So flow diagram has to be confirmed by the food safety team. Physically, you need to go and verify. Right? Now, let's do a small exercise. I think we have enough time. I think that we can capture. So time is 3:36. I'll give 4 minutes. 3:10. Can you develop a flow diagram for black tea making? Black tea, plain tea. I want you to make a plain tea with sugar, right, within 4 minutes, and then upload into a WhatsApp group, or, like, share this. Maybe, like, you can draw in a paper and take a picture and upload it. Yeah, take 4 minutes, cover all the requirement, right? Cover all the requirement. Let's see. Yeah, can you understand my question, right? 85151 requirement. You try to cover this. Yeah, can you do that? Can you do it fast? You have 4 minutes. Are you okay? Can you do that? Sachin, you are okay? Ashanika, you're good? Can you do this part?
Yes, sir.
Right, excellent. So you, maybe you can draw it in a paper, right? So it's a plain tea with sugar. Yeah, let's see. So now I'm not going to give a break for tea break. So let's make a plain tea process flow diagram. So you have 2 minutes. So can I get the feedback? You're still working on that? I'll start to get photos, right? Okay. Okay. So I got one WhatsApp message saying fill the kettle with water, turn on the heater, water boil, place the tea bag, tea leaves, pour hot water, tipping, pour into another step, filtering up to remove tea bags, add sugar, stir, taste. Right. Okay. Now, so I got one. So I said place the tea bag, tea leaves, and pour hot water, right? And then stirring. I think stirring. Pour into another cup. Remove tea bags. Okay, you remove the tea bag, and then add sugar. Again, you stir, and then you stir. Taste, right? Okay, fine. It's good. So I got one more feedback. Receive raw material, tea bag, sugar, water. Storage of ingredient, measuring of ingredient, boiling water, tea brewing. So now, like say, when you do it, the process map, say this uh, boiling water, tea brewing. So boiling water means like process step has to be connected, right? So tea brewing mean you have to add tea bag, you have to put boil water, and then you have to keep it for 3 minutes, brew, and then you need to take back filtration, serving. So if you take this process map, right? You take this process map. If you take this process map, right? It should be practical, right? Let me read the other one. Water boiling, add black tea leaves, boil for 2-3 minutes. So now this process map, see now add black tea leaves. So boil for 2 to 3 minutes, right? Then while the tea leaves are there, right? While the tea leaves are there, you add sugar, which is not the correct one, right? You don't do that. And then while the tea leaves are there, you stir well. Then strain, right? So it's not the correct way, right? So imagine this is like very simple example. Every day we make tea, right? Take the required amount of clean water to the kettle, boil the water until it's reached to boiling point. And then pour water into jug, add black tea leaves, tea bag. I'll let boil for 2 minutes, stir, strain using spoon. Yeah, this is perfect. Yeah, right. Interesting. So now we are getting more information, right? Boil water. Yep, right. Okay. So team, let me read the last one. Which I got is in the chat. Get water into a kettle, turn on the kettle, wait for boiled water. After boiled water, pour water into the tea bag in the cup. Wait 2 to 3 minutes, add sugar, stir well, then drink. So now, so don't worry, right? Don't get offended. So now, while you keep tea bag, while you are keeping the tea bag, you add sugar again. And then with the tea bag, you're stirring, right? And then you drink. So you drink while the tea bag is there. Right, it's not the exact process map, right? So when you verify, you can see this, right? Guys, you are okay? Team, are you okay? Now, I took a very simple example. Right? Guys, you okay? So this importance of the process map, I hope is very clear to you now. Are you okay with this? Harshanika, you okay? Anjana?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this has to be spot on. If you missed out a single step, now most of your tea bag will be there, right? While you are drinking, right? So maybe the process you are violating. You are not adding, what you do is you are taking keep the tea for 3 minutes and then you are filtering into another cup. So if you miss that point, like if another cup is not washed properly, or maybe your strainer is not properly washed, or you use that strainer for something else. So that will be an issue. But we need to consider all these factors. Yeah, we need to do that, right? So we need to cover, right? So process map has to be perfect. So when you do a process map, right, then after you do a process environment. So this is basically you talk about your PRP environment. Then you do a hazard analysis. My example is tea, right? So when you do a hazard analysis, basically you covered tea, what are the chemicals you can bring, pesticide, chemical, all these things. So team has to do that. So hazard identification, right? And then hazard assessment has to be done. And then you do a control, like you talk about CCP. So all this part, hazard plan, CCP plan, all limiting monitoring part has to be covered. Up to this place, you need to cover, right? So let me give some example, right? I think I'll share some example, the entire thing, right? See, like this is one. Hope you can see this, right? Team, I'm just sharing a lot of information. So if you don't see the information, just let me know. Hope you can see this, right? You good? Oh, yeah. Right. So this is primary packaging process, right? This is not in Sri Lanka factory, but see production and packing process. So you can see each and every step is covered. Process step, styrofoam granular storage, wrapping material storage, strapping material storage, right? So the record process QC inspection record, and then responsibility. So if you do this analysis, it's the matter of putting this information into their JDs, right? Production staff. So then, then you try to transform styrofoam granular to pre-expand loader, QC inspection. So each and every step. So if it is not okay, say even in your tea tasting, right? You basically say, okay, taste and then hand over. But what happens if the taste is not good? You add more sugar again, right? One instant, you are not. Maybe what happened if you drink using the same spoon, then you are contaminating it, and then you are putting into a sugar and putting into a tea. Again, that will be a contamination. So real process has to be there. I hope you got my picture, right? So each and every detail you need to cover, right? So if it is okay, what would be the process? If it is not okay, what would be the process, right? So you can see everything, right? So all information is a very lengthy document, right? So you covered all this. So this is the process map, right? So this process map has to be very detailed. Why? If you miss out anything, right? If you miss out anything, you are losing all the information. So after you do the process map, right? The second thing what we need to do is, like we said, okay, we need to do a hazard analysis, hazard identification, right? So let me take that example. See, guys, you can see the hazard analysis chart, right? Hope you can see this. You good? You can see this, right? I changed the chart. Anjana, you can see this. All others, you can see this, right? Ashanika, you can see this. Bhagya?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Right. So this one, you can see under each and every element, right? We did a study. Say styrofoam granular storage, physical, chemical, microallergens. So identify years. You don't say years. So what are the physical hazard? Dust and other foreign matters, right? Chemical, nothing. Microbiological, nothing. Allergen, nothing. No. So, and then packing material storage. Yes, dust and other material. So this is no known. So we'll say one example. Transform styrofoam granular to pre-expand odor. So physical, yes, dust and other. So you need to specifically identify it's a dust particle, it's a nail, it's a hair, whatever. You can't just say this is the physical hazard, right? So then like microbiological, yes, microbiological contamination due to manual handling because like, it's manual handling. People are touching the product, right? Say packing material, QC inspection for food safety and quality concern. Dust and other foreign material, yes. Microbiological contamination due to manual handling. Right, and then this one, pre-expanding process, right? Yes, microbiological contamination due to quality of the issuing water, right? So these things, like now you can see, let me take another example. Transform to hot air drying. So dust is there, and then oil, yes, oil grease from transfer line, right? So you specifically identify what is the material. You don't just say is a chemical hazard, is a physical hazard. You identify what is the chemical hazard, what is the physical hazard, what is the microbiological hazard, and then what is the allergen. You got my point, right? Team, any question? So under each and every step, there can be a 4 hazard category. So this will be a very lengthy document, right? You have like say 10 steps. So when you do a hazard identification, 10 into 4, it will become 40. You got it, you got my point, right? So these are the example. Yeah. Team, you are clear? Team, you are clear about it? Yeah. So because we are not going to do the case study because when we did the hazard program, only we did the case study, but now we have to do a vulnerability and threat assessment as well, right? So I'll just show the example. So maybe you can use this, right? So let me take it out. And then when you do a hazard study, so you develop a process map, and then you identify the hazard under each and every process, right? And then this is most important part. You develop you develop you tell me like if you can't see this, right? You develop hazard analysis, right? So you can see the probability, severity, and risk factors. So you identify like, okay, styrofoam granular storage, right? Same example, right? Okay, what is the probability that dust particles, foreign matters can be present? So probability is very low. You put 1. So you develop your own criteria, right? And then severity, if that product contacted, what would be the outcome? So you identify risk. Then you develop control measures. You develop reference all your checklist, and then you identify whether it's a PRP or CCP, right? So we'll take the one chemical example. Where is this chemical thing? Yeah, this one, right? Say transform hot air drying. Chemical, yes, oil grease from transfer line. So you identify probability is 1. The severity is outcome is 3. Again, see, proper cleaning practices among the facility, machine cleaning, prevent maintenance. So preventive maintenance checklist. So if you see, all the references are given, right? So you do, this is again another lengthy document. So you identify in this particular factory, you can see there's no CCPs, all PRPs. Right, the packing line should not have CCPs, right? So all PRP. So if you do a proper PRP, you can cover everything. So this is like, hazard identification. So when you do hazard identification, right, then you identify like, what are the Nirmani, like, I didn't understand your question. How do you divide production? HACCP, right? Hazard analysis critical control point. how do you divide production process into HACCP analysis? Under what condition? So you are not dividing it, Nirmani. So basically what you do is like, you identify the how many processes, like say, for example, if you have a DC factory, desiccated coconut, they have only one process, right? Say they receive the coconut oil, they do the hatcheting, and then they remove the, other particles. So it's a one process line, right? Say, for example, if you have a milk manufacturing factory, so you have a one process for milk, right? A pressurized milk, and then you have another process for butter, right? So they have another process for ice cream. There's another process for yogurt. So you have four as a plan, right? And if it is a black tea, it's only one process, right? And the problem with the hotel kitchen or your canteen kitchen, you have so many processes. You have like meat, you have rice, you have like string hoppers, you have vegetable. So you have so many processes. So you need to understand each and every process. Nirmani, did I answer to your question? Do you have the similar question? Nirmani, you are clear now? Say bottled water manufacturing, you have only one process. You take a bore well and you do that. But if you think you have a manufacturing facility for fruit juice, so and the carbonate juice. So fruit juice would be one line and the carbonate would be another line. So you have a different processes. So black tea, just one line, right? You got it? Yeah. So others have any question? If you have any doubt, just ask. Yeah. So this is about the hazard part, right? So when you identify this hazard part, right? So you basically covered everything, right? Let me go back to the standard now. So hazard. So these are so you identify your control measures, what you do. So everything you covered up to this, right? So this is this particular area, you covered everything, right? So then if you have, let me go to the PRP. So this particular factory, you only have PRP, right? Let me show you that. So this particular styrofoam, we call it Regiform box manufacturing factory, you have only PRP, right? So here you can see this. Here you basically talk about PRPs, cleaning factory premises area, raw material. So I'll take one example. So that will be very clear to you, right? So cleaning. So factory premises area, raw material storage, production flow, finished goods stores, office area, changing room, lunch room. So what, right? So these are the monitoring part, right? Pest harboring place removal, dust, debris, oil and grease, or any other contamination, fungus growth, waste removal part, right? So water removal part, and then how visual inspection and cleaning according to the guideline. So there's a guideline and then do the visual inspection. Frequency, daily routine before production. So you need to do daily before production. So who's accountable? In this particular factory, HR and admin manager is accountable. And accountable means he's a key person, right? If something goes wrong, he's responsible, accountable. Responsibility means the person who does this work. So cleaning and production, all staff. So whoever cleaning production staff. And document premises and daily cleaning checklist. So you remember that daily cleaning checklist. Accountability and action. If not properly clean and remove, maintain at one, we do FSSC HR manager is issue. And then document number, NCR, premises, daily cleaning checklist, all these informations are there. So you can see under each and every category, they identify all these requirements. Vehicle inspection, whatever. Pest control, like say now this example, pest control. Pest activities in the factory and premises. Pest control is outsourced to be external party within the agreement. Pest activities are monitored during the daily cleaning. Monthly monitoring by external contractor. Daily monitoring by production staff. So HR admin manager again responsible. So production staff. So you have a daily cleaning checklist, right? So these are like, the activities we need to cover under PRP requirement, right? So this is like, you do the study and then finally you bring it like, kind of a workable document, right? So this workable document you need to maintain, right? So then I'll take operational prerequisite also. So there's no operational prerequisite, this standard, right? Right. Now we covered that part. So I know like at the program I said like, initially we start a bit hard area, and then in between we went to a PRP GMP area, which is very easy. But again, at the later part of the program, we go into another detail area, the hazard and the vulnerability study, right? Okay, now let me share the standard again. Right? So this part we covered. And then of course, now we need to do another study called verification related PRPs and hazard control plan. What do you mean by verification? This is very important. So we study this, right? Verification means the purpose. Have we met the purpose, right? Whether we have met the purpose. So that is very important part. Now, say for example, purpose of the cleaning is what? Why you need to clean the premises? Say why you need to clean the cup before you like take the tea or make the black tea? Why you need to clean it? Why you need to do that? Why you need to make sure clean? Very simple question. Now you should be able to answer. Don't think in a very complicated way. Why you need to do the cleaning? Why there's a cleaning should be required? Anjana, what do you think? Why you need to do the cleaning? Why you need the cleaning? See, you need to minimize, you need to eliminate chemical, physical, microalgae, that's it. Simple as that, right? Ashanika, you are good with that, right? So cleaning is for what? Whatever the step we are taking here, just to eliminate chemical, physical, microallergenic, the hazard for the consumer. That's all what we try to do. Yeah. So when you do a verification activity, yeah, verify there's no contamination. Agreed. Spot on. Right? So what we try to do is like, we try to identify PRP implement is effective, hazard controls are effective, hazard level within the acceptable level, hazard analysis is updated, other determinants. So these things we need to verify, right? So verification, we need to have a documented information for verification, and then this activity has to be identified. And then we need to have two other things like, food safety, there's a requirement. Still we are under operational part. Hazard, yep. And other thing is like, process non-conformity. There's a new word called non-conformity. What do you mean by non-conformity? Yep, agreed. Non-conformity mean you manufacture the product, right? You manufacture product, but due to some reason there will be an issue. Say for example, you manufacture one product, tea, the moisture level is high. Since some of you are coming from like, interns tea, so your moisture, there's a target, but your moisture level is high. Now what are you going to do with that? The moisture level. So now what you can do is like first step, you can do a correction. What do you mean by correction? Again, identify the lot. You can put it to a dryer again and bring it to a certain level. You can do that. But there are some products you can't do. Say, for example, if there's a milk batch after pasteurization, you identify the pasteurization time, there's a violation. You can't put it back because then you are not getting the same taste. Why? Milk has protein, it goes to a certain heat process, you're not getting the taste. So you can't do that. But tea, of course, you can do that. So you do the correction. Immediately, what are you going to do? Sometimes your correction can be like, you identify, you keep a different location, right? So, or maybe you can reprocess it, right? So you identify what are the things you're going to do, right? And then you determine what are the failures, why this happened, and all kind of a thing, right? And then corrective action. This is very important. So not only correction, like any organization, they can do a correction, right? Even whether you have ISO or not, if there's a customer complaint of the product, they identify, they isolate it. That's a correction. But ISO required corrective action, right? So how to recur this? I'm like, how to make sure it won't happen again, or maybe a similar process. So you need to develop a corrective action plan, right? So this is one thing. And then of course you need to identify handling of potential unsafe product. Say for example, you do a microbiological testing. So you have a certain product, right? And then your lab said, okay, there's a contamination, coliform, E. coli coliform contamination. So what do you do with the product? So this goes as an unsafe product. You can't keep this product with the other product, right? So standard said, okay, look, handling of potentially unsafe product. How are you going to handle this product, right? Sometimes like you are getting a product from market, trade returns, right? So you can't just keep with the same location with your good product, right? Or maybe you are like you are keeping a product with the expired product, so comes as unsafe product. So you need to have a process for that as well, right? And then the evaluation of releases, right? So product releases, like so depend on that. Say if it is a tea, how you're going to evaluate and release. So now tell me, Sri Lanka, we are in a tea country, right? One of our biggest export. Earlier it was number one, but now it's not number one. Uh, but we are exporting a lot of tea. How do you evaluate the tea before you release it? Tell me, how do you evaluate this? Guys, come on, how do you evaluate the tea before release? Like you manufacture, you just release, or is there as a mechanism to release the tea?
We have to get the reports from labs for moisture levels and lead and cadmium and like chemicals.
You do that?
No, you mean before we
Yeah. If you
put the
can,
tea in the
yeah,
market, right?
yeah, put it in the market.
Like in our company, we do the testing. Maybe it's only when they need to do the exports.
Yeah. When you do the export, like you need to sometimes get a test report. So that's why I mean, like those tests are very expensive, right?
Yeah.
So that's why people don't do that. So they do annual sample and all. But
I thought, okay, I thought everybody need to do that. I only see
no,
the ones that are exporting now, so
yeah, exporting. So normally, what I think like somebody has Situm, right? Chan. So Situm Chandima, right? Situm has give a feedback. Bring can do a sensory evaluation. Situm, you are spot on, right? So basically, you can see the T guys. They call SIP and like grading and everything. So they send it to the auction based on the grading, right? So they do an sensory evaluation. They call sensory evaluation, right? So they do that part. So like normally the releasing criteria is sensory, because sometimes like when you manufacture a product organization, they do a microbiology test, and like the chemical test they do, like you said, and then they do a sensory. So where I like worked previously, so we previously we manufacture margarine and all kind of products. So every day before like there are products goes through like microbiology releases based on the 4 days, right? The margarine and like product. So like after 4 days, once you get the microbiological clearance, the QA team, production team, we do a sensory evaluation. Say check salt and all. So then only we release the product into a market. Yeah. So that is like there should be evaluation mechanism. In milk industry also we do that classification. Am I correct? Yes. In milk industry again, milk bit vulnerable product. So milk always they go for the microbiological testing. So not only sensor evaluation, right? Not only sensor evaluation. I think to mean Dumidi, Hirudika. So Dumidi, like in milk industry, is a very risky product. So all product they do microbiological clearance. Then once you got a microbiological clearance, you do a sensor evaluation. Then only you release. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you got it. So I got a feedback. I don't know about, but in DC before release the product, we have to test the daily sample, and we got test report upon on the physical matters and the microbiological fact. Sometimes the buyer get the product sample and ensure the product quality before. Yeah, you got it. Anjana, like, you're correct, right? So you do the daily sample, you do the sensor evaluation, you do the moisture testing, and sometimes lab testing is done. And sometimes you keep a sample, send it to buyer, he do analysis, and then only because heavy metal pesticide test is very expensive here, right? Harshanika's lab, SGS lab is very expensive, right? So I'm like pretty obvious because
And
the equip. Because they are using high-tech equipment, right? The high-tech equipments are very, very expensive. They use the GC, HPLC, so those are high-tech equipment. So those are very expensive. Actually, the cost is not for the testing, right? The cost for the equipment. So when you bring the product, so it's very expensive. So we can't do daily. So, but sometimes the buyers, especially Japanese guys, they don't trust us, so they test it, right? Meat industry, they use sensory for classified according to their weight. Yeah, sensory version. Not only meat industry, even alcohol industry, right? They do a testing. So like the people who work in alcohol industry, whether they like it or not, they have to go through the testing sensory. So during the daytime, like that's fantastic industry to join for the boys. During the daytime, but you can't be in the production, right? You have to be in the QA. So if you want to get into the production and if alcohol level is high, you are kicked out from the factory. But if you are in a QA and then you are moving, you can do the sensory. But you're supposed to throw away, but certain amount goes into your body, right? So alcohol industry, sensory is part of it. Yeah. So they depend on the industry, right? So they do a releasing criteria, right? The hotel. And now my question. Uh, all the industries you have a timing if you are into manufacturing. But what about the hotels? You do has a and everything. The you can you can keep 4 days, 3 days, microbiological results, and then you release. What about the hotels? What about the hotels? The resorts, restaurant, they go for hazard. What about them? What is their releasing criteria? What do you think?
customer feedbacks.
Yeah, customer is their releasing criteria, right? So all of us become they are test pieces. Why? After chef make the point, the food, he can't test it, right? So he's supposed to give to us. If there's an issue, after maybe 72 hours, we might able to explain it. So all critical control point has to be there. Your storage temperature, your hygiene temperature, your cooking temperature, all has to be make sure, right? So that's why in hotel industry, they keep all food product sample 24-hour sample. Every other day, I think they are sending sample for the lab to test, right? So whatever the product, they keep it for 24 hours. That's a mandatory requirement in hotel because there's no way of testing and releasing it, right? So you can do the organoleptic testing, but the microbiological, no way, you can't. Right, so they keep sample for 20 hours. If there's a complaint, you have a reference sample. It's a mandatory requirement. So if you decided to go for a hotel industry, you check on that. Yeah. Ashanika, you have a question. Yep.
So you mentioned about keeping sample for the testing. Is it it is a requirement only if we are following these certifications, or is it mandatory to any kind of hotel?
Any kind of hotel. Any kind of hotel, they need to keep the sample. HACCP is a mandatory. So if you go for HACCP, ISO 22000, FSSC and all, is a mandatory requirement. But any hotel, they need to keep sample. That's a requirement.
Whether
so if
they have the certification or not.
No, yeah, because in Sri Lanka, according to the Food Act, you download and read it. According to the Food Act, all places has to have a PHI certificate and the GMP requirement, right? So that's a mandatory, that's a law. So when you have a law, it is above the ISO standard, right? ISO is a voluntary, but law,
Yes, sir.
whether you are having a certificate or not, you have to do it,
Okay, sir.
right? So food, the hotel and all, like you need to keep sample at least 24 hours. If there's a complaint, you do it. But I don't think most of the places they keep that, right? They don't keep it. That's the problem. But requirements are there. So if there's a complaint, they have a sample to test, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
that is, but other countries, the GMP requirements are very, very strict. And what they do is like, if the inspectors are there, they identify it, and then they put a big banner board outside the factory or outside the restaurant or whatever, saying like this premises have been banned due to a bad hygiene practices, right? So it's damaging the name. Right. There's a big board, like it's a legal requirement. Legal authority is doing that. And until they do the changes, they can't operate. So they have to do the changes, and then of course they have to get approval again. Then only they can reopen. But the brand name is tarnished again. So they have to have a different name or go for a different place. So that is that tough, right? So that is one area. So evaluation, say depend on the industry. There are evaluation criteria there, and then non-conformity products, how do you dispose, and then withdrawal, recall. So this is we discussed, right? So how do you do the withdrawal, recall, and then how we conduct. So this is again we discuss in the TS requirement as well. So 8 requirement, the do part up to this, and these are 9 and 10 is easy because 9 is talk about you develop objectives. Can you remember I think you have someone has developed fantastic objectives. I asked put it who Veeraratna has developed seriously good objective 98%, 20%. So now here talk about how do you monitor those requirement, right? How you going to develop monitor, and then data you need to analyze data analysis part, and then of course up to this point you are system driven. Then you need to do your own internal audit, right? So ISO, now I think you are familiar with the FSSC requirement, right? So if you're going for FSSC, this is this will be not valid. You need to update your FSSC requirement. So person, you can't just go and do the internal audit. You can't be a part of the internal audit team. But if it is under ISO 22000, you can be a part of internal audit, right? So the criteria and everything is there. So these are separate guidelines are there called 90011. So this is a different skill requirement, right? Internal audit program, and then you conduct the management review. So these are the management review input, and the management review discuss the previous management review output. So the context part you discuss, then any updating activities, monitoring, measuring. So verification activities, you might say, okay, there's issue with the water, there's issue with the PRP. Those with the top management you discuss non-conformity corrective action, your audit, internal, external certification body results, then inspection results, the performance, whatever the feedbacks, externally objective monitoring part, right? And then your risk and opportunities, and then you discuss the resources. So emergency, we have not discussed this, right? So we need to go back and discuss this emergency part. And then this is the opportunity for continuous improvement. So then management review has to be concluded as a documented information covering all the requirement, right? So this is one area. And then improvement, you talk about whatever the non-conformities, you say how you're going to improve non-conformities. And this is all about ISO 22000 standard, right? Let me now cover the emergency part. So what do you mean by emergency? I just skipped that part, right? So what do you mean by emergency? So under food safety, what can go wrong as considered as an emergency? That is this
A
emergency.
situation that is occurred unexpectedly and have to be handled immediately.
Yes. There are areas you sometimes where is this emergency? I need to this one. 84, right? So there could occur unexpectedly. Or maybe we'll say act of God, right? So that goes as an emergency. Say for example, yeah, you got this is a what's this? Sumitra, like this is what the example I'm going to take, right? So you said like water pollution sometimes due to a flood. Imagine you have a storage, water storage is there, and there was a flood situation. The entire tank was got flooded. What are you going to do with that, right? So this can be an emergency situation, or maybe your factory, right? Your factory in a flood prone area, so there can be a flood situation. So one thing you need to make sure, there will be occupational health and safety emergency. You have to think of your people, how to safeguard the people and all. But then there's another thing, you need to make sure, the food safety emergency, right? So how, after flood, what are you going to do with the remaining material? Can be a raw material, can be a finished good, can be a machines, right? So what are you going to do with that, right? So there should be a procedure. How are you going to handle that? Like say response and actual emergency situation, emergency applicable statutory requirement, communication, like external communication, right? So he just mentioned take action to reduce the consequence of emergency situation, appropriate magnitude and emergency in incident of potential food safety impact. Periodically test procedure where practical. So it's I said, okay, periodically test and review. So they have given some example. Can be emergency situation that affect food safety, production, natural disaster, can be a flood, landslide kind of a thing, environmental accidents, and then this bioterrorism, workplace accident, public health emergencies, and other incident. Example, interruption of essential service or water, electricity, or refrigerant. Like say for example, now I take one example. Your industry is heavily depend on the cold chain condition. What happens if there's no power? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So that can as a kind of emergency situation, right? So you need to maintain the cold chain, but there's no power. So do you have a backup power, or you have a power generation, or maybe do you have a some other place to transfer your product? So these emergency situation we need to plan it out, right? So under when you conduct, depend on the product, depend on the location. So when you do a external context, right? Can you remember the 4.1, the initial element which we discussed? 4.1, we identify the external context. So if your factory next to the flood prone area, right, you consider that as an external risk. So you need to develop action plan. So you identify there are some factories, they monitor the flood level in the water level in the stream near the stream as well. If you have a river, they monitor that. So if they identify level is going up, then they go for a backup plan, emergency plan. They eliminate, they try to take up all the raw materials, packing materials, and there are some factories, there are some factories, they build their factory in an uplift position. Their packing line, their the storage, their utilities are in the uplift position. What they did was they study 30 years flood data, they forecast, and then they develop factories. So if you know some factories close to those flood prone areas, you just check that information. And if you had a chance to go for a internship, this will be a nice case study for these factories, right? These are very good factories, because those factories really need a lot of water. So you can't take water from the river, right? That's a legal violation. But the water table in those areas, flow water table is very high. So you can extract enough amount of water, right? So that's why they situated those factories. So even though that risk, you might have a question why you set the factory in that particular area? Because the water table is so rich, because your product is heavily depend on the water. So if you take carbonated alcohol and non-alcohol drink, the facilities, most of them are close to this the Calvin River area, right? Mainly because of that particular reason. Even the flood prone area, but they maintain. And then there are factories, they develop fantastic defense system, right? So maybe later on you can find out that. So this is the emergency part. Right. Now we covered that team. Now I think like we covered bulk of the area. Let me go back. Yep. So initially we thought additional requirement. We covered that, right? So we covered TS requirement for manufacturing. Now we covered ISO 22000 requirement. Lot, right? So one more things we need to cover. That is vulnerability assessment and threat assessment. But I don't think this is a total new concept. We are not that very much familiar with this concept. Let me take few examples, right? So when you go to industry, and if you happen to take work in a FSSC certified industry, so this assessment will be only available on those industries. So imagine in Sri Lanka, only 197 industries are there. So easily you can go to the site, check whether there's a vacancy for you, right? Check on that, right? So you will have a lot of good experience, right? Because these all 197 places, they can't fabricate anything for the audit, right? They can't fabricate anything for the audit because under the agreement within 3 years time, there will be a one surprise audit, right? So they have to maintain their system, right? So even certification bodies, they don't know when they have to do that because the FSSC, GFSI, they are very thoroughly controlling these requirements. If they identify there was a diverge or the information leak, they cancel the certification body license. They are very strict. Even certification bodies, there are guidelines. So even that guideline is publicly available. Even in Sri Lanka, very few organizations are capable of doing FSSC certificate. SES is one, Bureau Veritas is one, and then I think DNV, they can do that, right? So very few. There are a lot of certification bodies in Sri Lanka, but they can't do. Even SLSI, they can do limited scope. So very few organizations they can do because getting approval from GFSI is not easy. Now you can see the complexity, right? Being a customer, maintaining a certificate is not easy. So even for certification audit, being a certification body with GFSI is very challenging. Yep, I hope you understand that. Now, the last part, right? The vulnerability, right? Any question up to now? I know you are tired, right? A lot of things, lot of learning, right? So now you can see this Word document, right? So threat assessment. Now, like your food knowledge, whatever the knowledge you learn from university, uh, like chemical, physical, microbiology, biology, biotechnology, like that will be very handy. But when it comes to threat assessment and the vulnerability assessment, the food knowledge is important, but you need certain skills, like threat assessment. You need to think as a kind of a, like security person, right? What are the threats? So see this. I hope you can see this. You can see this document, right? Can you? Yeah. So you can see this document. So you said like, so under this particular document, you identify the particular factory. What are the threats? So even cyber crimes you identify as a threat. Why cyber crime? So these are beyond HACCP requirement, right? So cyber crime mean like, say some industries, you run through like, entire operation, manufacturing operation to a system. So what happened if somebody changed the program? What happened if somebody changed the program? Or maybe your transportation, your like customer communication is through the email. So what happened if somebody hack your email system and give a wrong order, wrong information to the customer? So customer said, okay, I need 5% of this particular ingredient. So somebody hack your system, instead of 5%, he will say 20%. That is the violation of legal requirement of the particular country. What will happen? Your product, if they analyze, they will say, okay, this is violation of the legal requirement. right? So cybersecurity is part of it, right? So this is very advanced, right? And then like let me go through the process. So understanding the attackers. So you understand who are the attacks. So this depend on the industry, right? Then you do a threat assessment. We call it TASUP. So we have HASUP, we have TASUP, we have VASUP, vulnerability assessment, right? So then under TASUP, you identify who might attack us. How might they do it? Where are the vulnerabilities? How can we stop them? So we ask these questions, right? So this is like there's no standard requirement we need to develop. Like say, this particular example I take, right? Threat to company activities, attack on website, right? So develop company profile, may provoke attack, right? So maybe somebody can say, okay, we might need to get a support from IT department also, right? Firewalls, whether where we keep our website, right? All this information, right? Because sometimes people send information through the web information. So what happened if that goes into somebody else? So now you can see we are looking at the different perspective, right? Then supporters and competitors, adverse publicity, head hunting. So head hunting, like if you have a good QA person or if you have a good development team, they can do head hunting. So that will be a threat, right? So these controls, you identify these areas, right? Sometimes previous company staff. So you identify all groups, right? So here, water tank, canteens, malicious contamination. So somebody can do that, right? So then you said like, okay, control can be personal security check, CCTV logs. So sometimes you have a CCTV camera on a vulnerable point. You do that part, right? So mold room. So this particular area, they identify all these activities, right? So even test parameters, vehicle breakdown, right? Good receiving, product transfer. So you do a kind of a risk assessment. Let me go through another detailed one, right? So you can see here we are looking at a total different perspective, right? Total different perspective. You can see the threat assessment, right? You can see this. You good? Can you see this? New one. You are Ashwini, can you see this? Team, are you okay? You can see this? Is it visible? Team, this new
Yes, sir.
word. All right. Okay. Thank you. So you can see under each and every category. I'll take one example. The easy example. Uh, so see, they identify thread. Machine setting was changing intentionally. So you have a machine temperature, somebody can do that. So depend on their factory, the staff and all, right? So they identify this as a low risk. But if you are a new factory, your probability can be high, right? Reject item not checked in intentionally. So they identify that. Mislead other employees are giving wrong information. So somebody can give a wrong information. That can happen, right? So these all threats, right? All threats you identify. So here there's no raw material, fraudable things, drugs, sharp tools, explosive things, unauthorized cell phones, others are carried from the company main gate. So there's a medium risk. See, one particular example we did one sometimes we involve not only the consultancy work, we involve with root cause analysis work. So sometimes, like, there was a one factory exporter, when they send the product, say tea bag, 400 gram tea bag, one cutter blade, entire cutter blade is inside the tea bag, 400 gram tea bag. So this went to the Japan, and then, like, say they have sent, like, 100,000 packs. Only out of 100,000, one cutter blade is there. So what do you think they will do? Just try to understand the scenario, right? 400 gram tea bags are there, fully sealed. They will say they send 100,000 tea bags, 400 gram, right? Only one bag has a one cutter blade, like, the blade you use to cut, right? So Japanese people, they trust us so much. They send everything under this, the X-ray. So they identify there's a cutter blade. So is unopened, the with the X-ray they send back to the company. They said, like, we are holding it, and you have to pay the holding cost, and you have to pay the damages, everything. But we need a root cause analysis by a third party, not by them, right? So they send the sample picture and everything. They keep the sample, right? So now, what can go wrong? What do you think in this kind of a scenario? So even if that happened to us, what we'll do? So you have 100,000, 1 lakh of product, bags, one has a cutter blade. What do you do? What is our mentality? What we do? Fonseca, what do you think? Hirunika, what do you think? What do you think? So you have 1 lakh of product, and then you have only one pack has, out of 1 lakh, one pack has a cutter blade, like, long, 8 inches long, maybe 6-inch long cutter blade. Ashini, what do you think? Steve, what do you think? So if you are a QA manager, what do you think? What are you going to do? You are a tea import company, you are running a queue. So out of 100, they will say, okay, guys, I scan 100, entire 1 lakh of tea bags. All good. One has a cutter blade. What do you do? Ashinika, what do you do? So you are into inspection. What do you do? So within your AQL level, right? Below AQL level, what do you do? Ashinika, what are you going to do? It's below your AQL level, right? Out of 100, 1 lakh. So only one sample is out. So what are you going to do?
This cutter plate thing is not much clear, sir. I'm sorry.
It's not clear, right?
Yeah.
My case is like this. See, one company, they export tea bag, the 400 gram, like, it's a kind of big bag, 400 bag, 100, like, say 1 lakh into Japan, right? So those people trust so much. They send each and every bag through X-ray, right? So they don't
Okay.
trust us, right?
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And then they identify one bag out of 1 lakh tea bags. One have a cutter blade inside. It's a seal, but blade is inside. Just imagine the blade is inside.
Okay.
Now what do you think? Now what do you think? I hope it's clear to everyone, right? Sumitra, you're clear? It's clear to everyone, right? What do you think? What do you think? What do you
You
do?
mean the reason or what we should do after that?
Yeah, if that happened to you, you are a QA executive. If that
Okay.
happened to you, what do you do?
We have to go through the CCTVs, and we have to trace back and see why this exactly happened, and we
Yep.
have to reason and
You're spot on, right? So the Japanese people want third party to do the inspection. And then, like, only way we can do is because, like, it's not an automated process. 400, if you are familiar tea bag, 400 sometimes is a machine, sometimes manual. But in this operation, it's actually like semi-finished. So there was a machine, they packed up to a certain level, bag is open, and then there's a manually person is taking out the tea and like adjust to a 400 gram, and then to a manual seal operation is there. So how can this goes, like, whether they need to know whether it's a purposefully, and then their question is like, if the blade is inside the tea, what about other bag? Other bag, do they have a chemicals, right? Did they do it purposely? So what is the background of the people? Whether it's a full-time people, how long they have been there, is a contract people. So you need to do all this stuff, right? So when you go for FSSC, you need to study, right? So this is like they identify this as a kind of a medium risk, right? So all requirements. So you can see you need to study each and everything about your people. See, employee misuse, giving information, you can see, right? So all possibilities you have to study, right? Product label change, machine parts was damaged intentionally, you can do that, right? So depend on that, you do a study. Like say, I'll take so like say one wrong method used intentionally. So these are medium risk, right? So somebody has a question. Yeah, Ashanika, you raise a question.
Say a company have only ISO certification and not FSSC, then what would be the difference? Like the same kind of scenario happen, and you say that if we only have ISO, then we can't trace back to that point. Or is it not a requirement according to the 22,000 alone?
No, this is not a requirement for 22,000 because having a CCTV controls is not a requirement 22. So that's why multinational pushing people to go for FSSC. And that's why very few organizations, see in Sri Lanka, if you take 22,000, I have no idea, maybe like 5,000, 10,000 organizations are certified, right? Under 22,000, maybe more than 10,000. But only 197 are certified for FSSC because these are the strict requirement. You can't get a certificate having a CCTV records, right? Not CCTV mean like not seeing the parameters, seeing the vulnerable points. So this study take a lot of time.
So what if we don't have SSC and FSSC, then what could be the point that we will be stuck at? Like what is the kind of යන්න පුළුවන් උපරිම තැන මොකද්ද ඒ වගේ incident එකක් ආවොහම නිකන් if we have only ISO thing?
You can't. You stop at one particular point saying අපිට මෙතනින් එහාට බලන්න විදියක් නැහැ. Because like say if you don't have a CCTV, right? You can't go beyond that. So your study cannot be completed. Because like see, when you go for FSSC, you put CCTV for the vulnerable point, like your packing line, packing operator. See, when you go to the shops like supermarket, you see CCTVs are there to cover the parameters, and then same time you have a CCTV focusing on the cash register, right? Yeah, same thing we require. Not only the parameter, right? You need to have a vulnerable point like product open point, right? That has to be there. So if you don't have that, under FSSC is a requirement, but under ISO 22,000, under HACCP, GMP, these are not requirement. So if you have a complaint like this, only thing you can say, okay, we are going to take a corrective action. We are going to implement like CCTV camera for the vulnerable point. That's the only thing you can say. But for that particular order, you can't trace back. You can't go back. It's open. Then automatically fault will be fallen under your area. Yeah.
Okay, so very clear. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is like, this is one example, right? So you can see this very, 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 very lengthy, right? You talk about, you can say visitor can do something, contractor, security, like crash materials, cyber activities. So everything we need to cover, right? Vehicle breakdown. So this is another like another area. So another study, right? So this is a threat assessment. Even if you are a food professional, food safety professional, you have to looking into a security like angle. So when you do this threat assessment, we always try to bring a security team as well. we asked like, මේ වැටෙන් පයින්න පුළුවන් තැනක් තියෙනවද? මිනිසුන්ට එන්න පුළුවන් තැනක් තියෙනවද? හොරු එන්න පුළුවන් තැනක් තියෙනවද? You ask all these questions, right? So you are a food safety specialist, plus you have become a security specialist when you do this study. So always we try to get a security input on that, right? So I think like threat assessment is clear, but to be clear, you have to do a actual study, right? Okay, I have asked some companies have only the certificate for process, not for both product and process. Is that possible? Could you please? Sachini Jayasuri, I have asked, some companies have only the certificate for process, not for the both product and process. Is that possible? Sachini, the question is not clear to me. Can you like turn on the mic? I'm like, you can talk in Sinhala as well. I'm sorry, I'm not good in Tamil.
මං අහලා තියෙනවා සමහර කම්පැනිස් වලට මේ ප්‍රොඩක්ෂන් ලයින් එකට මේ සර්ටිෆිකේට්ස් තිබුණාට ඒ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකට ඒ සර්ටිෆිකේට් එක නැහැ කියලා. ඒක ගොඩක් අර කොස්ට්ලි නිසා දැන් බිස්කට් එකකට ගත්තාම ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක චෙක් කරන්න ඕනේ ගොඩාක් පැරාමීටර්ස් තියෙන නිසා. එහෙම වෙන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට මේ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ පැකේජින් මැටීරියල් එකේ ඒක දාන්න බෑ වගේ දෙයක්.
සචිනි මෙහෙමයි. මේකේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකකට එන සර්ටිෆිකේට් එකක් නෙමෙයි. දැන් හිතන්නකෝ අපි හැස බිස්කට් මැනුෆැක්චරින් ෆැක්ටරි එකක් කියලා. එතකොට බිස්කට් මැනුෆැක්චරින් ෆැක්ටරි එකේ බිස්කට් වලට තමයි මේ සර්ටිෆිකේට් එක යන්න ඕනේ. හැබැයි දැන් හිතන්න මට තියෙනවා හිතන්නකෝ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකක් තියෙනවා හිතන්න මම වර්ජින් කොකනට් ඔයිල් උත් ගහනවා. ඩෙසිකේටඩ් කොකනට් ඔයිල් උත් ගහනවා. ඩෙසිකේටඩ් DCත් මැනුෆැක්චර් කරනවා. හැබැයි මගේ කස්ටමර් රික්වයර්මන්ට් එක තියෙන්නේ වර්ජින් කොකනට් ඔයිල් එකට විතරයි. එතකොට මට DC එක පැත්තකින් තියලා ස්කෝප් එක දාන්න පුළුවන් FSSC එක වර්ජින් වලට විතරයි මම ගන්නෙ කියලා. එතකොට මගේ කාව වෙනවා. හැබැයි
තේරුණා සර් හරි.
හරිනේ. එතකොට ඒක විතරක් දාන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි මෙතන එක දෙයක් තියෙනවා. දැන් හිතන්න FSSC යද්දී සයිට් සිකියුරිටි එක යද්දී සයිට් සිකියුරිටි එකේ මට සිකියුරිටි එක වර්ජින් වලටයි ඩෙසිකේටඩ් වලටයි කියලා වෙන් කරන්න බෑ. හැබැයි මම සිකියුරිටි කන්ට්‍රෝල්ස් බැරියර්ස් දානවා සිකියුරිටි පොයින්ට්ස් දානවා ඒව ඔක්කොම ෆැක්ටරි එකට දාන්න ඕනේ. හැබැයි මගේ වර්ජින් එකට විතරක් මම කැමරාස් දාලා පැකින් ලයින්ස් කවර් කරලා තියෙනවා. මේබි DC එකේ නෑ. එතකොට ඒ වගේ යන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට මම කියන්නේ FSSC එකේ වාට මතකද මම මුලින්ම කරද්දි කිව්වා මේවා මොනවාද අර ස්කෝප් එක දාද්දි ස්කෝප් එකේ ස්පෙસિෆිකලි දාලා තිනවා මේ කම්පැනි FSSC තියෙන්නේ වර්ජින් කොකනට් ඔයිල්ට විතරයි ඩෙසිකේටඩ් වලට නෑ කියලා. සජින ක්ලියර් නේද ඒක?
ඔව් සර් ක්ලියර්. thank you.
එතකොට කාටවත් බොරු කරන්න බෑ. මොකද අර මේ අපිට වෙබ් එකෙන්ම ගිහලා බලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් ISO ගත්තොත් ඕන දෙයක් කියන්න පුළුවන්. So Harshini question
qualification එකක් විදිහට FS මේ සිස්ටම් එක mandatory නැහැ නේද සර්? export
කොහොමවත් mandatory නෑ. කොහොමවත් mandatory නෑ. හැබැයි එකම දේ දැන් multinational companies rules දාලා තිනවා. දැන් Unilever එකට ඔයාලට supply කෙනෙක් වෙන්න ඕනේ නම් Nestle එකට supply කෙනෙක් වෙන්න ඕනේ නම් FSSC certificate එක ඕනේ. Carlsberg supply වෙන්න නම් FSSC certificate එක ඕනේ. එහෙම නැතුව ඔයාලට supply වෙන්න බෑ.
හරි සර් ඒක අර buyer requirement එක මත වෙන දෙයක් වගේ නේද?
100% buyer. මේවා legal නෙමෙයි. 100% buyer requirement.
voluntary standards කියන
මේවා ඔක්කොම යන්නේ voluntary standard විදියට. මේවා legal නෙමෙයි යන්නේ.
හරි සර් thank you sir.
Right. Harshanika, there's a question. Could it be that she's asking about the company that has only 9,000 and not, yeah. So 9,000 is a total different thing. 22 is a different thing. Yeah. Harshanika, thank you.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Sachin, you are clear, right? Okay, let's move on. So now then threat assessment එක ඔයගොල්ලෝ කරද්දී පොඩ්ඩක් දැන් නිකන් අර security mode එකට වැටෙන්න වෙනවා. So we always like we look at the food safety mode නේ. Right? Food safety එකේ security එකට වැටෙන්න ඕනේ. Right. Now vulnerability again it has to have a security mode, right? So let me take some example. My example again කරන එක lazy because standard only give very few information. Now see you can see this one, right? I hope you can see this. මම පොඩි කරන්න. So this particular factory vulnerability assessment. So this is a packaging line, right? So you identify what are the resins, what are the master batch. So this is the packaging, HP, LP and all. So you identify the process. So what are the in-house process, like, external process, labeling, everything you identify, right? So you have a thorough understanding about your internal process, right? So imported materials, local purchase, customer supplied material, right? So you try to understand like entire thing. Vulnerability means like, there will be a chances, purposely or by default, right? So once you understand your organization structure, the material flow, mainly material, right? Material flow. Say for example, now we had a situation, Kottamali we are getting from India, right? There was a story going on, right? Kottamali. Maybe long time, not recently. We had a situation like sometimes people say, okay, the whatever the Kottamali we are getting is used, once it's used, එකපාරක් extract කරලා extract එක අරගෙන ආපු එකක් කියලා. But I mean, like, it look the same, right? This is possible, right? You got my point, right? You got my point, right? So that will be a kind of a vulnerability. So depend on the country. So sometimes people might say like, මිරිස් කුඩුවට ගල් කුඩු දානවා. Right? So there was another situation like, people ask like, the bites, boys are there, right? So bites, it like normally if you develop something like papadang and all, it absorb moisture, but the bites are not absorbing moisture. So people say like, when you make a bites, they put a one pet bottle into the oil. You know about these stories, right? You should. එතකොට අපි භාගයක් ප්ලාස්ටික් කාලා තින්නේ because it's not absorbing moisture because there will be a like plastic coating. Apple වල වටේ polythene මේ මොනවාද ඉටි layer එකක් තියෙනවා. That's the kind of vulnerability. You know about this stuff, right? Do you know about this or you don't? Ashnika, you know about this stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It was in the news. Even tea. Yeah, Sachini, you know about it. See, in tea, Sri Lanka, we had a situation to make it black. They put it some what do you call sugar solution. So there are situations. So those are kind of a vulnerability situation. So when you do a vulnerability, first thing you need to study about your process thoroughly. You identify what are the points it can go wrong, right? Let me open one. Yeah, so you can see this document, right? So under this document, so let me enlarge so you can see it. So this is like, you remember, right? You study about the foreign supplier, local supplier, and then customer product, right? In this scenario. So you identify resin, like, see PP resin, HDPE, LDP. So these are like, high density polypropylene, those kind of like, raw materials for the packaging, primary packaging industry, right? So then they ask like, likelihood of occurrence, historical incident about the vulnerability, not recorded. Emerging concern, not recorded. Economic factor, price fluctuation. Monthly spot price may change drastically, right? Then they ask geological origin, complexity of the supply chain. Products in several countries, direct supply through into supplier, right? So they identify like, what are the issues, right? So then monthly available adulteration. So signed conclusion of likelihood of occurrence. Occurrence is very unlike in the current supply chain. The supply chain is short and direct supply through into supply, impact on minor. So they identify like, direct supplier. So then likelihood of detection. So the vulnerability, right? So the geological product in several countries site use narrow range suppliers, easy of access of raw material, short supply chain direct from production on site, adulteration could only at the supply side. So only supply side, there's no adulteration because it comes with the fully packed seal with the label, right? And then length and complexity of the supply chain direct from production to the site. So imagine if if you are getting a product, like say, for example, we'll say, like, flavors, right? So you are getting a flavors and then you keep this flavor and then convert it into another repacking center. So this scenario will be totally different, right? So then you talk about side conclusion of likelihood occurrence. So detection is some difficult alteration, adulteration can be detectable in manufacturing state, then the conclude into a likely, right? So materials are unlikely to be target to alteration and substitution based on the current information. Reassessment should be complete in new information become available, right? So then you can do, it's not easy, right? So you identify resin, you do a likelihood occurrence for resin. So you said, okay, resin, likelihood of detection, likely, likelihood of occurrence, unlikely. So you identify each and every product vulnerability study, right? So then you identify historical incidents are not there. So, and then you identify other materials, right? So, so you can see this is maybe likely, very unlikely, right? So each and every product you do the study, right? So then you identify what are the vulnerabilities, right? So this is a lengthy document. So each and every raw material, depend on your raw material, you need to do, right? So you identify. So all are like, kind of comes under low risk. Say for example, now we have a like, who's Anjana, like from coconut industry. So if you want to do a vulnerability study for the coconut, right? So the coconut suppliers, can they do some adulteration or anything? Because you are getting with the husk and all, so you can't do anything, right? But if you think like, if there's an open product and then the vulnerability is high, so you do this study for each and every product, right? So let me conclude this. Go back to this. Right. So we spend whole day, right, just to study this part. Right? So when you go for FSSC requirement 22,000 version 6.0, right? You need to have additional requirement, this part, right? FSSC additional requirement. And then you need to cover, depend on your product type, the TS requirement. And then of course you need to have a, like, ISO 22000 2018 standard. So it's not just one standard, right? See, we are quite used to have a one standard, but FSSC is not a one standard. It's a combination of standard. And then if you have fulfill all the requirement, right, then you can get a FSSC certificate. And like I said, under ISO 22000, HACCP is already there and GMP is there. So you can get 3 certificates at one go, right? So that's all for time being. I think like we covered everything. It's a challenging. So when Minura said like we have to do FSSC, I thought it's a challenging task, but we were able to finish within on time. Now, any question you can ask now. I believe like, we start like heavy load and GMP, it was quite light. And then again, we went to the 22 HACCP part. And then finally, again, we went to a TACCP and VASAP analysis, which is, I know like it's a kind of a like quite new area for you, but believe me, that will be the way forward for Sri Lanka because we are trying to get into the export market. So at least we need to double the number of certified people who are under this standard, right? So I think like you can help on the industry when you get into this industry, like, after your graduation. So now the forum is open for discussion. So there are two things, right? There's no question mean like, you are totally convinced or totally confused. I think like these easily can be confused, but I try to, without going for a very complicated example, I try to take a few common example and try to explain this complex standard because very few people know about this standard. Okay, there's when FSSC experience is valid for any companies because it's highly advanced when we apply for job? Of course, yes. Because like, any industry love to have people who has FSSC qualified people, right? Because you see the vulnerability threat assessment are only available under FSSC, and then even GMP, the TS standards are very much available. So I think like, you know where to refer. Just go through this, understand this, and then maybe this will be very valuable. Yeah, any industry will be very valuable. Because industry, say for example, industry has ASAP 22, and if you said, okay, I have experience in FSSC, people love it because most of the people, like, even certification bodies, what they do is like, if somebody said, okay, I need to get a FSSC certificate, they are not recommending. What certification body does is like they will say, okay, first you get ISO 22000 and run that standard for at least 1 year. Then next year you apply for FSSC. So even certification bodies, they are not recommending because it's not easy. So you can see even doing a vulnerability assessment, threat assessment is not that easy. And then even the TS requirement. See, ISO 22000 said as appropriate by the organization, the GMP. But TS standard, it gives all the guidelines. So if you see this, the certification body report, FSSC report, if you happen to see that, you can see most of the findings are pretty much based on the TS requirement, the GMP requirement. But when you set ISO certification, it's not, it's the other way around. So this is a very tough standard. Agreed, Sachini. You can do that. Yeah. Any other question? I know it's fully loaded. I think like everybody is so tired today. I think like you had a lot to think. And then same time, I think like Minura will keep open the chat for some time. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Even I don't mind answering that. Yeah, Shanika.
The BRC certification එක මේකත් එක්ක ගත්තම compare කරද්දි මොකද ඒ connection එක?
BRC එකෙත් mainly තියෙන්නේ like now this FSS මේ standard දෙකම GFSI govern standard දෙකක්. හැබැයි BRC එකේ මේ වගේ TS guideline එකක් දීලා නැහැ. ඒක වෙනුවට ඒගොල්ලෝ BRC එකට ඒ requirements දාලා තියෙනවා. ගොඩක් ඇතුළට. දැන් හැබැයි BRC එකත් මේට වඩා පොඩ්ඩක් tough වෙලා තියෙනවා. දැන් හිතන්න මේ standard එකේ personal hygiene වල කතා කරනකොට එතන කතා කරන්නේ මම example එකක් ගන්නම්. අපේ uniforms දැන් ISO 22 හැසප් යද්දී යුනිෆෝම් ප්‍රොවයිඩ් කරන්න කියලා විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. ඒතර මේකේ අහනවා යුනිෆෝම් ක්ලීන් කරන විදිහ මොනවාද තියෙන්නේ කියලා. හැබැයි BRC එකේ යද්දී ඒකේ අහනවා BRC ෆුඩ් වල BRC වෙන වෙනම කැටගරි තියෙනවා. කන්සියුමර් ගුඩ්ස් ඒ වගේ දේවල්. BRC එකේ අහනවා යුනිෆෝම් එක ක්ලීන් කරන්නේ කොහෙද? එක්ස්ටර්නල් තැනක් තියෙනවාද? ඒකට ප්‍රොසීඩ් එකක් තියෙනවාද? දැන් හිතන්න අපි කියනවා FSSC යද්දී මම එළියට දීලා ක්ලීන් කරනවා කියලා. හැබැයි හිතන්න මම දැන් මේ ලොන්ඩ්‍රි එකට දාලා ක්ලීන් කරනවා. ඒතර ඒ ලොන්ඩ්‍රි එකේම මේ හිතන්න ස්පිතාලක ඇඳුනුත් ගෙනල්ලා ක්ලීන් කරනවා. දැන් එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? එතකොට ඒ ගයිඩ්ලයින් තියනවාද? එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි කියනවා මම ළමයිට දෙනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ ගිහලා යුනිෆෝම් හොදන් එනවා. එතකොට ගෙදර කාට හරි ලෙඩ වුණොත් ඒ ඇඳුම් ටික එතනද හොදන්නේ. ඒ ගයිඩ්ලයින් තියනවාද? එතකොට ඒක එන්න BRC එක මේට වඩා මේකත් එක්ක ගොඩක් ළඟින් යනවා. ISO එකට වඩා ඇඩ්වාන්ස් වුණාට vulnerability threat assessment mock recall ඔක්කොම තියෙනවා. හැබැයි තව requirement පොඩ්ඩක් tight කරලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් මෙතනත් මේ FSSC යන්න පුළුවන් primary food packaging වලට විතරනේ. හැබැයි BRC එකේ වෙනම standard තියෙනවා හිතන්න cold chain වලට. BRC වෙනම requirement තියෙනවා consumer good වලට. දැන් FSSC එක මට මේ consumer goods වලට, ඒ කියන්නේ shirt වලට ඒ වලට යන්න බෑ. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න මේ මොකද්ද මේ කියන්නේ කියලා. හැබැයි BRC වෙනම consumer good දැන් හිතන්න brush වලට දැන් මේක food packaging. දැන් BRC එකේ වෙනම තියෙනවා brush වලට consumer good කියලා. brush කියන එක BRC වලට විතරයි යන්න පුළුවන්. right? ඒතර ඒ standard එක customize වෙලා තියෙනවා. මොකද brush කියන එක intended use අර reasonable foreseeable use ප්‍රශ්නයක් එන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතර brush manufacturer යන්න ඕනේ BRC primary packaging වලට. FSSC යන්න බෑ. ඒ වගේ පොඩි වෙනස්කම් තියෙනවා. BRC එක පොඩ්ඩක් advance මේකට වඩා. මේක seriously advance. ඊට වඩා චුට්ටක් advance.
Right. Very clear. Thank you.
right? So such what name කියන්න බෑ Sejuda, right? Small scale production company get FSSC. I mean, depend on the, it doesn't depend on the size, right? Say for example, if you are manufacturing like say say black tea, you are bringing tea, and then you want to get the scope for that. And if you can cover all the requirement as per the FSSC requirement, you can get it. So don't worry about the scope, right? Say for example, I run a say small toffee manufacturing, and there's a requirement to send it to Europe for this particular toffee. It's a small scale. I have only one machine. I can get it. So if you can cover all the full the requirement, you can do that. Yeah. Any other more question? Right. Okay. Team, I think like we can conclude. So let me hand over Shehano Procure team. You can conclude. Thank you very much. I think we had a very good interaction session. So I try to cover the bulk of the requirement with examples. So and then I think like chat will be open for discussion. Anything. If you have any question, you can use the chat. I think Procure team will keep open for some time, at least 1-2 weeks. And then I have homework. Somebody asked for this 22,000 standard, so I'll just pass it with Minura. They will put like Shehan and all that. They will put the training purpose only and all. So then they can share with that. Yeah, team. Thank you very much, and back to the organization team.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rasita, for your valuable insights and clear explanations shared throughout today's session. We truly appreciate the time, expertise, and the practical knowledge you shared with us. We'd like also to thank all the participants for your active participation and interest throughout the day. We hope this workshop helped enhance your understanding of FSSC 22000 and its application within food safety management systems. If you have further questions or require additional information, please feel free to drop a message to the WhatsApp group, and Mr. Rasta will be more than happy to help you all out. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Shan. Thank you, team. Thank you all. It was nice. Yeah.
On behalf of Procol Academy, I also would like to extend our sincere thanks to everyone, Mr. Rasita and Halcyon team, and our participants. So special thanks to you all for everything. We hope the knowledge gained today will support your professional growth and help you confidently apply FSSC 22000 in your future work. Once again, thank you all for you being part of this workshop. Have a great day ahead.